We'll call to order, and can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Robert, would you like to lead us tonight?
You bet. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Steve, would you like to take roll?
Commissioner Becker?
Here.
Commissioner Roddick?
Here.
Commissioner Intner?
Here.
Vice Chair McCrory-Rylander?
Here.
Chair Haney?
Here.
Commissioner Basor?
Here.
And Commissioner Ford is absent.
So we are, public comments we're going to open up for, and I have one speaker card, and that's Ben Edwards.
Yes.
Ben?
Yeah.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Well, I'm here again representing the Ojai Valley Bicycle Coalition, and full disclosure, there was an email train mix-up, and we were looking for the next city council meeting, and we found the next city hall meeting, or meeting at city hall. But it's actually, it's a great opportunity for us to let you know where we are now. I think we spoke to you in the fall about our plans for this bike park, and where we stand now. We did have a meeting with Hank Bangser, it's a superintendent, the school board, and they agreed in principle to lease, donate something, that land behind the skate park, that vacant lot, if the city will sign on and say they will manage it the same way they manage the skate park. So that, I think, is a very positive step, very, very positive step. And so that was our next, what's that?
Huge step.
Yes, yes. So that was our next step with the city council, is to ask them to, yes, agree to support the bike park in that way, including the understanding of liability, that it would be handled the same way that the skate park liability is handled. And then also to make it clear that the Ojai Valley Bicycle Coalition will agree to take on the management of the park in terms of maintenance, the tools provided to maintain the park, and that type of thing. So basically, we would like to ask again, since we are here today, for the Parks and Rec Commission to continue to support it. Like the mood seemed very positive last time we were here. And also, we'd like to ask Mr. McClary if he could provide us with sort of that detailed information about how liability does work with the skate park and how that will continue to work for the proposed bike park. So any light you could shed on that would be great.
Well, in short, and I can follow up with some more detailed information, but in short, what I understood in speaking with our insurance authority is that it is considered a, as you stated, I'm searching for the words right now, hazardous recreational, thank you. And so it does follow under the same, use as a skateboard park. So the exposure to the liability is similar to a skateboard park. It's, people have to understand that, it's used at your own risk. It's a hazardous, sport. They need to wear all the proper safety equipment and all that.
Yeah.
And much like at the skate park, if we find people are violating any of those rules, that's a safety concern. And then, we can ask them to either leave the park or comply with the rules. So,
yeah. And that was another big step, because that's always that first question is, how do you handle liability? And to know that it can be handled that way, I think, eases a lot of people's minds. And so any questions from the board here about where we stand, what our next steps are, any questions you have since we last spoke?
I think, Ben, what we have to do is we have to put you as an agendized item. Mm-hmm. And then again, have you come and talk. And then we can strike a motion to forward it to the city hall.
Okay.
To the city council. There isn't anyone that's opposed to it.
Okay.
It's just, I think there's a formality that has to be,
Okay.
procedures that have to be done or followed.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Make a formal recommendation.
yes.
And to ensure we get on the agenda, is that something we just speak to Steve about? And
We need to make a motion.
When we come to future agenda items, Steve's probably noting it down now, and then at the end
Okay.
of the meeting, we'll make sure we
Right,
get it on our
and
next
you will be on
agenda.
it for the next board, for the next commission meeting.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And
Well-
I think Oh, the only thing I would suggest is just bring all the information you can, like the plans, and I already have like a bunch of questions, just to, not to make it not happen, but to help you,
Yeah, absolutely.
like access and, all that kind of stuff.
Well,
So-
part of that is going to be, I think, contingent on exactly what the school board will allow us to use, how much of that real estate we get. And so we can certainly provide our dream plan, what we would like to do, and then when we go to the school board, once we have the city's approval, we'll have a much more specific idea of what land we have to work with.
Okay.
And I think actually it would be really important next time organizationally to see how our two bodies can help work together at this point.
Right.
Because it sounds like you guys are well on the road. And I know with the skate park, we formed a committee or had someone from our commission sitting on the, going to the skate park, skate Ojai meetings. So maybe at this point would be a good time for us to put, when we put that on the agenda, figure out how we want to interface with the organization and help, keep the communication lines open.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. Well, thank you very much for your continued support.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Ben, is there anyone else from your group that'd like to speak?
I have more, just one question.
Go ahead.
You
Can you come to the podium?
You mentioned us having to be on the agenda, which I thought we were tonight on your agenda. That was in our email chain of,
It's not actually on our agenda.
okay, it was supposed to be on tonight's agenda, so that's why I'm a little confused. How do we?
I'll accept responsibility for that. I blew it. I guess I did. We talk, when we, at the end of each meeting, we talk about future items to put on the agenda.
Okay.
And it's my responsibility to put that on it, and obviously I didn't.
It could be my fault too because of the email and
I'll accept
my lack.
responsibility.
Okay.
Make
So-
sure we'll put it on there, and then you guys keep coming and, keep the momentum,
Okay.
and then go to city council meetings as well, so,
Okay.
and know
The
that
city
you have
council
our
meetings
support.
are Tuesday nights?
Twice a month, yes.
Okay.
The regular meetings are the second and fourth Tuesday
Okay.
of each month at 6:30.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is this going to cover this, the skate, the little skate kids, not the skateboards, but the scooters?
No, it's dirt.
It's all.
Yeah, no, it's-
It's all dirt.
Yeah, it's dirt.
Ben, you might
Yeah.
bring some standards, or you might bring something that's out there, unless these tracks are just.
Well, we do
Ad
have,
hoc.
I know, I do actually have some things that we had provided initially for the city council, but I'm happy to share them with you here. There's three, if you want to just.
Pass them around.
Gives you a little idea of what artist rendering of what the park will look like. And it also has, you see the last page is links to other cities that have their own bike parks. Austin, Boulder, Seattle, Park City. And those bike parks you'll see are actually much larger than what we're planning to do. What we're planning to do is quite a small little park, a very manageable park for a city our size.
Okay.
But they're out there, and they go all the way from small dirt jumps that kids put together to beautiful parks run by cities, maintained by the city, that have huge events. So it runs the gamut, and what we're talking about is definitely the small side of that.
Okay, so next month, we're looking for your presentation with the recommendations that we made, and you'll definitely be on the agenda.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Ben.
Appreciate the time and support.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have, any more public comments? Okay. All right, we're on the approval of the regular minutes from December 5th.
I'm still getting caught up. I'm about 85% of the way through the minutes from January 23rd, but with the quick turnaround between the meetings, I'm not quite caught up yet, but I should be caught up for the March meeting.
Okay, so we're not ready for the 5th or the 23rd?
The December 5th minutes were included in the packet, and
Right.
those are available for consideration this evening.
Okay, so has everyone read them?
Yes.
And can we have do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll
And we have a
that
second?
motion.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then, Steve, we're going to move the January 23rd to next month, yes?
Yes, if we could put that on the agenda for the March regular meeting, and
Okay,
I'll
so,
have the February and the January for those.
okay. Okay, so we have Gary Ryan here to do a presentation on the Ojai Senior Lifting Class. Gary?
Which is now the senior strength program. Ojai Senior Lifting was good, but the acronym was unfortunate. So we changed it to Senior Strength Program, so that's what we've got now. And I think this will work. I've got some things to pass along. I've got these already. And this is a copy of today's.
All right. Thanks.
I think I'll need to take one of those.
Oh, sure.
That's-
Yeah, we can share one.
I have.
Huh?
Has he got one?
There you go.
Do you want it?
No, go ahead. Sure, we'll check more.
So it's a senior strength program, and it meets Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. And we do it at the multipurpose room on Tuesdays. We do upper body for seniors, and this is really a fun thing. I mean, I've got, okay, the oldest is 93, and the youngest is 58, and I'm 70, so I'm like right in there with them. And right now, we've only got about a half dozen, but that's what I'm here, partly the reason I'm here, partly I was asked to make the presentation, but we'd like to get the word out more that we're doing this, because I think this is a great thing, great benefit for seniors, and unexpected pleasure for me to do this. It's just a lot of fun, more fun than even the football strength program. Sorry, Coach, but it really is. It's like they do unexpected stuff, and I've given the commissioners a copy of our workout this morning. We did. We start with basic stretches, and then we move through to just movement issues. So, for example, today we concentrated on how to pick things up, and we incorporate that with squats. So we've got these guys coming in. The 93-year-old is at St. Joseph's Retirement Home, and Father Rock, who's the priest over there, he comes over. He's 85, and so jumping around a little bit, but we've got them picking things up. At first, holding on to things and picking things up correctly, not this, but this, and they're learning how to squat. So they're relearning how to do stuff. So we gave them homework 3 times a day. They have to drop something, and it can be just their keys. That happened today just by accident. One of the guys dropped their keys. He was just about ready to bend over. We said, no, technical. You gotta come down and pick it up like this, even if it's a piece of paper. Do that 3 times a day. And it's amazing, the transformations that have occurred in just a few weeks with these guys. It's just wonderful. And it's probably the best program I've been associated with, the rec. Very small right now, but we hope it grows. We'd like to get more people in there. So you can see we start out with something Commissioner Becker's familiar with some of this stuff because he's been over there. And we start out with a golf ball stretch. So we have them roll a golf ball around the bottom of their feet, which helps if you've got plantar fasciitis, you've got tight soles, and we're teaching them basics on stretching and movements. And it's like, wow, it opens up the eyes, and they get excited, and we get excited, and they can do this stuff, and they can do it seated. So we've got half of the people are seated when they're doing the exercises. Then we've got the younger people, the 50 and 60-year-olds that can do it standing up. But if you have a golf ball stretch and you run it around your foot for a minute, and you do each foot, it's the greatest feeling. For 2 hours afterwards, your feet are tingling, and all that tightness goes away, and you can do it seated. So this is something you can do seated or standing, and it still has a great effect. So we start with stretches, basic stretches like that. The whole program takes about an hour twice a week. So it's lower body. What you've got in front of you is our lower body agenda for today. And then we do an IT band stretch where they go out like this. Commissioner Becker's done all this stuff, so he knows he could probably do the class better than I, or do the presentation better than I could. And then we do an adductor stretch. Okay, so we've got It's not quite as elaborate as what they have at the Ojai Valley Athletic Club, where they've got a machine you sit in and you squeeze your legs together like that. I went down to Kmart in Santa Paula for $1.99. I got a ball about this big, plastic ball, and they sit and they squeeze the ball. So that's the adductor stretch, like that. You've got the ball right here, and you're doing an adductor stretch. So we continue with that kind of stretching for the first half hour or so. It's amazing. You know, the machine at the Ojai Valley Athletic Club is $5,000. Mine was only $1.99 a piece, so we saved some money on that. And it's very cool because as you squeeze in, the pressure, you use more and more pressure. If you've ever been to the athletic club, you know that when you squeeze in, it gets easier and easier. You can just hold it there. Ours is better for $1.99. Anyway.
Yeah, you know, Gary, all the time I've been in a gym, I see women doing that exercise all the time, so I figured it wasn't a guy thing.
Oh, no.
I always wondered what it was for, what they were doing it for.
Yeah.
I can attest it's very difficult.
You're talking about it, I'm going, oh, that's what that was for.
Yeah, you don't want to have a groin pull. And in football or basketball or anything else, that's one of the hardest injuries to heal,
Yeah.
is one of the adductor pulls. And that's one of the things that you can get if you're falling or you're about to fall and pull something back there. So we're going to strengthen, the muscle groups as best we can. And then we do a twist with the PVC pipe, which is kind of common. Then we did alphabet ankles, where you point your toes and you do the capital letters all the way through the alphabet, which is kind of good, getting the ankle mobility. And then we get into the heart of the workout, and I've got listed here what we did today. This took us about an hour altogether. So you do supported lunges, where you've got either one hand or both hands on something, and then eventually you get good enough to do it yourself. Lunges, perfect, because unlike squats are great for football players, and it really builds strength. But when you move one leg at a time when you walk. So we want to get the seniors in particular, we want to get them walking steadier. So we go into the gym or the multi-purpose room, and they have a line, and they have to walk on the line, and they have to walk very slowly. So we tell them, think cat. Think cat stalking something, and they're going like this, like a cat. And it's amazing, that's just the cues, the verbal cues you can give, and it makes a big difference. So we've got them squatting very slowly. They squat, correct, weight on the heels, head up. Instead of this, it's this. And when you teach people the correct way to do things, they're not going to get hurt as much. They're going to have a lot more flexibility, and it's just a good deal for everybody. It's good for the rec. I feel good about the program, and all we need is to get some publicity. So this would be our publicity sheet here. Maybe if any of you know people in places like I've been to the old folks' home, retirement homes, what they call them. I can say that because I am. So, and there's resistance from the management at those places because they don't want to take a chance. No, our people are fragile. I've heard this more than once. They're fragile. Well, I'm fragile. We're all fragile up to a point. But we need to get past that and get the people. They love it once they're in there because it's fresh. It's not the same four walls. They're doing things, and things they never thought they could do. In fact, one of them, this is one of my favorites. This wasn't with legs, but we've done this before. And I've got the people the guy who's 93 can do this now, and he couldn't do it before. No, just drop on the floor. But after a little practice, you can do that, and it's just like, it's I don't know. It's enabling is the word.
So Gary, do you have anyone coming from the Gables at this point using your shuttle service?
The only people we've got outside of there's a lady that drives up from Ventura, but we've got All of our people come from St. Joseph, so
Okay, so you don't have anyone coming from the Gables yet?
no, but we'd like to.
All right, well, I will happily take a stack of these over there as I have a relative there, so.
That would be great.
Yeah, and Gary, I'll pass it on over at the hospital for the continuing care center that's back there in the back. I'm sure they can arrange for some sort of transportation for some of their people over to it. So I'll make sure that I get that to the people there.
And how does the transportation work?
We've got a van, and, yeah,
We have a 15-passenger van that one of our staff members currently will go over to St. Joseph's and pick up the participants from St. Joseph's. But if there's any other facilities like the Gables or the Continuing Care Center at Ojai Hospital, we'd put them in the route and pick them up as well if we need.
I was wondering if you've reached out to Help of Ojai at all.
That's who transports a lot of our people to different things too. So for transportation, Help of Ojai has been really great, getting them to where they need to go. So I think, Gary, you might want to contact them. And it's going to be in our next upcoming brochure. Is that correct, Saf?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we'll have the correct abbreviation. It's Senior Strength Program, which is, I think, better. And so it's for 55 and older, but if what we've got, our youngest person has muscular dystrophy. He's 58, and he's making, just in 3 weeks, I can see just amazing progress. You know, it's just like pretty cool. It's really pretty cool. The cost of the program is, we've kept extremely low. Me and Max Dickinson, who's the other guy that's doing it with me, if you look on that second page, you see a picture of Max with two of the people. The guy in the middle is the 93-year-old. On the right is Father Rock. He's 85 from St. Joseph's. And we're doing band pull-downs for triceps in that picture. I guess I can, y'all can't see that, but it's pretty cool.
Gary, are you in the actual weight room?
Pardon?
Are you in the actual weight room?
No,
It's multi-purpose.
yeah, we're using the multi-purpose because we had a issue with the steps, and that's 17 steps to the weight room.
Right.
So before, in the morning, me and Max go up there, we get the stuff and bring it down to the multi-purpose or the gym. And yeah, the stairs are not negotiable for people, that age. They're barely negotiable for me. I mean, I'm like, yeah, and carrying things up and down, I let Max do most of that. So my helper, Max, is 21, Max Dickinson. He graduated from Nordhoff a couple of years ago, and he was the young man that was run over by a car about 5 years ago. And they thought he might not walk again, and now he's out squatting me. He does 400-pound squats. And he's got a real heart and passion because he was in a wheelchair for a long time. He's got a real passion for this stuff, and he's absolutely amazing with the older people. It's just really cool. So I hope we get a few more people in because we'd like to, spread the fun, and that's what we're doing.
So Gary, maybe another thing on marketing might be for either pictures and post it on our web, or even, I don't know if we have the ability to do
A link?
not a link, but a video, and do some type of video marketing on our web. I don't know if we have that, but that might be something that would that would send it to the young people who have parents that need to get out of the couch and into the.
Yeah, we've been dealing with young people since I started there in 2000, in September of 2000. And the weight room and the program has built up steadily during that time. Now we have CrossFit going on over there, and it's really good for the segment of the community that can do that stuff. But I think that we're missing the mark if we don't also get the seniors involved. And really, this is really a cool thing to be able to do. And just to be there and see the stuff is good.
Gary, have you ever considered taking your class to the facilities and instead of bringing them there?
Yeah, and we could, but that's just off. As it is now, I'm doing other classes over there, and Max is helping with the gymnastics program. He's in the gymnastics, so
Okay.
that's a lot, that's time consuming for
Yeah.
us. But if we can get the people over to our place, you know, that would be the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the stuff over there too, all of the equipment. I mean, I've got probably $100,000 worth of equipment. We've got some of the best equipment in the county for doing this kind of thing, for increasing people's reaction time and helping them with basics of life. I think we've got one of the best in the county of equipment.
And maybe some of
They've been
the
over there.
physical therapy places in town too might be a good place to put out your information, you know.
Do you think it'd be easier if we
Yeah.
had like a postcard? Instead of a multi-sheet? Or something, yeah, more compact, half a sheet, yeah.
I'd be willing to, you know, anything it takes that I can do. I haven't got a lot of time, you know, but anything that I can do, and I'd really appreciate some help, you know, with that. That's the thing that I need the most of, is just getting people to know about it. So anything that you guys can help with, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Gary?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Well,
Sorry,
well,
thank
there-
you.
There goes our crowd.
Mayor Strobel, I think, wanted to say a few words.
Gary, would you come? I would like to invite you to the Tuesday City Council meeting to do a brief presentation. It isn't agendized, but I think that might go a long way in getting the word out also. So if you can do that, I think that would be very helpful.
That's a great idea.
Great idea.
Yeah, I'd love to do it.
Thank you.
Maybe you could bring equipment and everyone could participate.
Austin?
Well, for an extended, if you'd rather go into an extended presentation, we can put it, I can ask that it be put on the agenda for the February 25th.
Well, if you'd like to do a workout during the meeting, we could arrange that.
I think
could
that
have
may be
Commissioner
pushing it
Becker
a
come
bit.
in.
Yeah.
But maybe I would like to invite you to join us at 7 o'clock, February the 11th, for the city council meeting,
That
at the
would be
beginning
next
of the meeting, to give a short talk on this. I think this is really important.
I do
Very
too.
much so.
I know I'm inspired to sign up.
Well, I was going to suggest that three guys I see on this table could be in it, but,
That's right.
in fact, it was interesting, Gary, before the meeting, I was telling Sunday how many aches and pains I have, and everything you're talking about is something that could relieve most of those.
It's
So-
pretty cool.
Sounds like it could be a pretty good stress.
My question though is, you're at 10 o'clock during the middle of the day?
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
have
twice
you
a
thought
week.
of an evening course or something like that, or is it just difficult to get gym time?
It's different, we don't want to bump up against Tyson.
And I actually think with the audience that you're looking for, it's not a bad time, and I think later in the day isn't really a good time.
Actually, this is right before lunch.
Right.
And it's when the body is they're awake by then, they've had their
Right.
coffee.
I think, from that standpoint, if this is the crowd that you're focusing on right now, I think it's probably a pretty good time.
Okay,
Okay, thanks, Gary.
thank you.
Well, our police department's not here, so we'll skip it at this moment.
We were in contact with Sergeant Arthur, and unfortunately, he was scheduled to be out of the state for a vacation. But I did check with him. He didn't have any breaking, news
news.
or anything significant to report. And he plans to be back here with another update and report at the March meeting.
Great. Okay, why don't who's going to speak on the Public Works update?
Want to take a shot at that, Mr. Katsas?
I'll start it off. You just jump right in anytime. Well, we talked many Park and Rec Commission meetings about, what type of tile is going to go out at the Libby Fountain and what are they doing with the benches. So as you've driven through downtown Ojai, it is quite obvious that they have now working on that project. I don't know what the timetable is to its completion, but I imagine it's going to be well before the Ojai tennis tournament in April. So they are redoing that whole area around the fountain, and they are going to do those two
The
benches that were like, I think they were potting or some sort of
It was. for
flower
plant- yeah.
flower beds or something that they're going to convert into benches. So,
I'm excited.
yeah.
It's finally
it-
happening.
It's finally happening. It's all enclosed with fencing but it finally
It's gonna
did
look nice.
happen. Been before the tennis tournament, it'll be a nice lead into Libby Park with a beautiful new fountain area.
Were those tiles donated, or did we?
Yeah, I believe it was donated by RTK,
Oh,
the
nice.
company that
That's great.
provided them originally.
So there's no other happenings or going-ons in the Libby Park before April? That might be conflict, like when's the Lavender Festival or anything like that? Is there,
I think that's around Memorial Day weekend, I want to say.
Nothing for president.
so we're pretty good up to April?
As far as I know.
Okay.
And I'm sure
Ye-
Greg was probably quite in the loop of everything that goes on around there, and that was the reason for the holdup a lot
Right.
of the times there.
Yeah.
Because there's
find a
always
window,
activity or
Right.
something
Exactly.
happening,
Great.
someone performing a rain dance or whatever else.
And it
went on
worked,
down.
so
Keep
thank
it
you
up.
for that.
Yeah,
Keep it up,
Whoever did that,
they
thank
need to go
you.
a little faster though, so we get more.
just more often, yeah.
Okay,
That's
any other
it
projects?
on,
Any other?
Just briefly, just to mention, because it's been out there and a lot of people have noticed the storm drain pipe that's on Aliso. That project is going to be starting soon as well. That involves, really tearing up the street and putting in that new storm drain to eliminate the flooding that they've been having in that area. So that's getting ready to kick off as well.
Yeah, in my neighborhood, they're tearing all the curbs and walkways out to put wheelchair ramps in. So, the downside of that, I don't know how the city does this, other than they might put it out on television, but no one was notified that was happening. All of a sudden, on a Monday, sidewalks are being torn out and curbs are being torn out, and there was a couple irate people in my neighborhood.
One time
Probably in
they
the
used to
paper.
put that on Channel 10, that this was gonna happen or something. That might be something.
Or they posted notices out on the street, do not park, or
Right.
something. Whatever happened, and it didn't go over too well. I know, like I said, I had a couple neighbors that were pretty upset.
Okay, I'll pass that feedback to the Public Works Director.
All right, discussion items. Amended duties and responsibilities of the Parks and Recreation Commission.
So we've had a few cracks at this already, but I know we haven't had the whole commission here to have the complete discussion. We got through quite a bit at the special meeting a couple of weeks ago, and included in your packet is a staff report with hopefully I was able to capture the changes that the commission had tentatively agreed to, with the understanding that we were, of course, going to come back and have further discussion on this, and again, recognizing that not all members of the commission were present for that discussion at the January 23rd meeting, and certainly and I know Chair Haney specifically stated we want to make sure that we got everybody's input on this before we actually considered any type of a recommendation to the city council. So in that staff report, and I'll briefly touch on a couple things here. We talked a little bit about the youth member of the commission, and in essence, what we discussed was recommending that the requirement that they be enrolled in an Ojai Valley school be dropped, and instead simply that youth member would have to be a resident of the Ojai Valley and be either a full-time junior or senior in high school. The next one that we talked about was, and we'll touch on this a bit more, was the powers and duties of the commission, and specifically there was the one about the aiding and advising the council or city manager in the selection of properly qualified personnel. I know staff is on the record, and that we do not feel that this is compatible with the current form of government, since those are decisions that really fall exclusively to the city manager. However, we do agree with the commission's recommendation that the commission be consulted for specific qualities and skills it would like to see for hiring of personnel for key department positions. So that's another change for your consideration. And then also well, I think it's the last duty that's listed, section 2.4104I, has to do with formulating policies and plans for the planting, care, and removal of trees, shrubs, and flowers. This is really a function of the Public Works Department, and as we discussed at the last meeting, really don't see that as falling under the purview of the commission at this time. The other thing, and I apologize, I would have included this in the packet, but I had forgotten back in the October meeting. Sure, Haney, if you could grab one and pass that along all the way around. We had provided to the commission kind of staff's recommendations in terms of powers and duties. So I wanted to revisit that again and make sure that was something that the commission was also considering. Because if you look through, and I'll wait for that to get around to everybody, but if you turn to the second page, there's really no changes on the first page there, but the second page, section 2-4104, powers and duties, this was something that the city manager and I had put together on what our best guess as to how we saw the commissioners, I think, really being the most effective in terms of how it can support the city and the recreation department, as well as the council. So these are also provided for your consideration tonight. And I like these because I think they really spell out,
Very good.
you know, really what we're talking about and really what is of value. You know, for example, we've got B here, which is to become knowledgeable about the general field of recreation, the programs and facilities provided by other agencies and organizations within the area and the needs of the city recreation program. C, to receive input from current and potential recreation program participants and recreation facility users regarding the recreation program facility needs of the community. D is a periodic review of the recreation element. I know that has come up as something that needs to be done on a more regular basis. E is a periodic review of recreation policies and recommendations to the council. F, participate in the annual review of the proposed budget, which is something that we've been doing now for the past year. And I think G is very critical, which is to participate in the annual review of the 5-year capital improvement plan as it relates to recreation facilities. H is an annual review of city fees, and I is to recommendations to promote participation in recreation programs and use of recreation facilities. And it's very interesting if you just take a quick moment and just think through some of the comments that the commission made this evening in response to the bike park, in response to Mr. Ryan's class. I mean, it fits in very well with these. I also reflect back on the discussion that we had at the January 23rd meeting about the basketball program. I feel that the feedback that we get from the commissioners is extremely valuable in enabling staff to be able to figure out how we can, best adjust these programs and move forward. Staff certainly has our perspective, and we certainly get feedback and hear things from the people that participate in the program. But I think the commissioners get a different level of feedback and a different quality of feedback that doesn't always get to staff. In other words, they may be willing to voice complaints to commissioners. They might not be feel comfortable voicing to staff. So I think connecting that loop is very critical, and I think that's an important aspect of these meetings is, to make sure that, staff is really being responsive to the needs of the community, and getting all the feedback that we possibly can. And then the last one on the following page, J, is to report fully to the public through the council on all the activities of the commission at least once a year and at other such times as may be required. And I know the commission certainly does a good job of doing that. So I don't know where you would like to go this evening. Like I said, we've talked about this a few times. There's no burning urgency that we take action tonight. It is on the agenda tonight if you want to take action on it. But again, we're trying to move forward to a point where we can get everybody comfortable with something, and then, so I will ask if you have any questions.
I'm gonna open the floor, so go ahead.
Yeah, I have one, Steve. It says in here on, excuse me, back here, on the second.
Are you in the handout, excuse me, Commissioner Roddick, the one that I
Yes,
gave
yes, I'm
tonight?
sorry for the administrative report.
Thank you.
It says back here that you had said staff does agree that the commission could and even should be consulted for specific qualities. But I see down here as it goes through, and it says, but it ends it, however, staff does not feel this section of the code can remain.
As is, right.
And I'm confused by that, because we use the words aid and advise in there, and everything we do is advisory. So I'm not sure how this is off point with any other responsibility that we have, as we are only advisory in everything we do.
So that came up in the discussion last week.
And I'm sorry I wasn't at the last meeting, but it's come
Not
up,
last- yeah,
this will be
yeah.
the third time it's come up then, because we
Right.
brought it up the first time, and I don't feel like we've ever settled where this departs from all of the other responsibilities we have as this is written. So I'm not clear on the conflict in the code at this point.
Would it help, Steve, if you gave an example, if this was in effect when we just had the last transition with Sophocles' new role and yours? What would have been different if this was effective?
Well, I hate to not answer your question, but let me back up a second. I think from staff's perspective, our real concern here is the possible interpretation of what this means. And I think it really comes down to a matter of degree. If the discussion is, how do we best fill this position? Are there, what qualities, what level of experience do we need? That would be part of a discussion that we could certainly have, and then that would be something we could take to the city manager, and then he could put that into his final decision in terms of, how we,
You're talking more about
Build the
roles
position,
and, roles
right.
and responsibilities, not a person. per
Right,
se,
as
the
opposed
difference
to-
between-
right,
Like
so
you do the hiring, but we would.
city manager
And I'm totally
does.
clear on that,
Yeah.
because the reality of this is, whether this is in this code or not, all hire and fire goes through the city manager, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that
Right.
ultimately is the structure of our government as it stands. So
Right.
I'm not sure where the confusion is in the code, because it just says aid and advise. Personally, I'd like to
But we
keep
did
it.
before,
I
yeah.
think that it's important that maybe reword it somehow, maybe make it more comfortable, but I don't think it has any implication beyond, as I look through the other terms that we've chosen, which I really like for, as we look at page 2 of the handout for today, the recommendations for the, discussion purposes of powers and duties. I like those. I think they're very good. I think this could just as easily be kept in there, and if there's different language and a different way to language it, I think it's important to have it there.
And I think, does it affect when I think back when we worked with the budget and looking at opportunities of getting another part-time person on staff, does that affect that? Does that mean that we wouldn't have that
I think it's,
opportunity?
I mean, I
That's a
think like.
recommendation.
No,
I think like
that's a
all of
budget.
these-
Yeah.
That's a budgetary, but I think like all of these, it's not specific.
Yeah.
So where you can have as many possiblies, maybes, could be's, I think the original intent of this is just that as they look at personnel and how that affects things, that there would be an advisory role from the commission. And I don't see the problem with that, as we are advisory only, and there's no implication of expectation of decision-making, because ultimately the form of government that we have is a city manager run, and so the city manager ultimately always has final call and hiring, even through the hiring process, I believe. So I'm confused. I still don't see the problem with including it, because I think the original intent is good. It just means that this commission should be a place to come to in times where we're making significant personnel changes. We're not talking about a rec supervisor,
Well, let me clarify something. Steve, you have to aid and advise on the administrative report, item 8A, and that's what we're discussing. And if we go to section 2.4, 104 on the handout, the second page, powers and duties, A starts out with to act in and advisory. So you've said the same word twice.
Right.
So that's where I think where we don't have a sense that there's conflict. I think we all are in agreement that the city manager hires and fires and sets personnel parameters for all of the entities within the city, whether it's Public Works, Recreation and Parks, or anything else.
I guess the concern would be that there could be a misinterpretation, you know, perhaps if not now, since I think everybody is pretty clear on this, but down the road in what it actually means by the selection. And I think that's the word that I'm kind of focusing on.
Can you change the verbiage in there?
So maybe if there's a way we can, like you said, change the verbiage there to make that a little bit more clear. Because I think what Commissioner Intner is expressing, we agree with. We do, you know, city manager, staff has no issue, and in fact, we think it's important that the commission, you know, have a part in that process in terms of trying to, you know, how we actually do this as opposed to, you know, who actually gets hired to do
Maybe
it.
you need
Well,
to
I think-
clarify that.
Well, and what I'm thinking is maybe we won't wordsmith it, but maybe with the understanding of and at the request of, you know, what you've heard here, maybe go back and find language that's going to work for the city manager.
Okay.
Because I guess what I'm trying to communicate is I feel that this is an important power in the sense of understanding roles and responsibilities and you know, where the advisory portion of this, you know, we're an advisory commission, so this is one more place I think that, you know, the input is probably helpful.
And it gives the people the power, you know, to let us know what they'd like to see.
Right.
I'd hate to not be able to tell staff or, you know,
Well,
what the community is asking for.
Putting on my city manager hat, I could see where I wouldn't want anyone to have the ability to advise me on who I hire and who I fire. And I think that's what I'm hearing is the fear, is
But we
that
don't.
we do not interject ourselves into that policy or in those policy-making decisions. And I think we're all in agreement with that. We don't want to be a part of that. However, if we're asked to sit on an interview board, we would appreciate that. If you're going to change personnel in the Recreation and Parks Department, I think we'd like to be advised or have a discussion about it. But again, ultimately, it's not in our hands. The city manager makes those decisions. So I think that's all, we're trying to keep this two-way street open.
Sure. I mean, and I hate to kind of pick a negative example, but, you know, for example, we could run into a situation where we have to terminate somebody. We're not going to be able to discuss that with
Oh, yeah.
the
That's-
commission.
It actually, it
That
only
makes
implies a
sense.
selection
Yeah.
process. It
Yeah.
doesn't even call out in this, in any, I think,
Okay, well,
because I don't think it's implying a personnel issues. I think it's more about large, like if you were to hire a new director of Parks and Recreation, I think what's trying to come across here is that it would be important to include in some capacity this commission.
So I think I'm hearing two distinctions now. One, which is, you know, because this says just properly qualified personnel, and you could stretch that all the way down to every part-time
And
person.
I
So-
understand
They
the
don't-
so
confusion in that.
what we're talking about are the key management positions, okay? And then also the distinction that the commission is not asking that they would actually be part of the selection process, just be
We
part
have-
of the.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we actually
Okay.
have
Okay.
asked to be a part of the interview process.
We have asked for that, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're gonna hire a major
Mm-hmm.
manager for this department, and this is the commission that is the advisory commission, and you always have a hiring committee, it would make sense to me that someone from this commission might be included.
As well as, you know, recreation.
Okay.
Just as we changed
But I don't
having,
know that that needs to be explicit in here to make it more confusing.
I think that's a policy
Right.
change. I know that when they would have commissioners interview for the Parks and Rec Commission, it was 2 people in the past, so we've asked council to also sit in those because it just seemed much better and fairer, you know, to sit in that process. So I think we, as a recreation, should be a part of that.
Would it be an issue to just explicitly state that a commissioner has to be on the interviewed board, or would that be too far?
I don't think
It's a panel
staff
interview.
would support that notion. I think it ties our hands a bit too much.
You usually have a member of the community, though, on those, no?
You know, it depends. I mean,
It's a policy change.
I mean, this most recent transition, it was pretty much,
Wouldn't
you
be a
know,
good example of the
That's true.
normal process.
That's true.
Well,
Or
wha- but-
procedurally higher, your higher.
But what was interesting about the last action that was taking place in this department is that it was discussed with us.
Yes.
That's true.
It was formatted, and it was brought to our attention of how, with the thought of management and how we were going to move forward.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we talked about kind of the, you know, the what and the qualities and what are we looking for and that type of thing.
Well, and also how.
As opposed to, there was a line there in terms of not actually crossing into, you know, the selection.
You guys
the
came back
choosing.
to us with that.
I would
We
still
never-
say that I think that as it stands, as it reads, aid and advise. There's no implication in aid and advise of actual decision-making power. There's no, with those two words, that is not implied.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with it as it stands. I think it's important to the commission. I think when they originally wrote this, they put it in for a reason. I think the reason is still there. I think if there's a lot of discomfort with how it's written now, maybe it would be worthwhile for you to go back and, after hearing all that we've said, take another stab at it.
And I think it would just be clarifying where our aid and advising, like where it ends and the staff and city takes over as far as hiring process.
Again, aid and
you know?
advise.
Yeah.
But that's, and this is, you know, this is, for some of us, been a consistent opinion from the very
Yeah.
first introduction, so.
I felt the same way.
So we're all in agreement with what you've written. We're asking that you take this back to the city manager and you guys discuss aid and advise and come up with maybe a different term or a different verbiage that
I think
you-
we're okay with that.
We're okay with that.
We're okay with that part.
Selection is
Yeah.
would be the part that we might want to try to wordsmith a little bit. Okay,
Okay?
we have our direction.
Okay.
Thank you.
But I
Change it to discussion of properly qualified.
I think it's more adding a sentence of what the role of the city is. This is talking about ours.
I don't think we
so
need to do it here. You guys go ahead and give it a try, and then whatever you come up with, we'll react to and see where we go.
Okay.
But I think if you want feedback on the others and powers and duties and the revise that you get, I think it's great.
This
I like
one?
what's in there.
Yeah.
This
I think
one
it's
here.
The handout,
Article
right.
1.
Yes.
I think it's
I
outstanding.
think it has a lot more direction than it's ever had before, and it gives people, you know, on the commission
Really
and
clear.
those looking at what the commission is doing, a much clearer picture of the intent and what
Definitely.
the relationship's supposed to be.
Right.
So I think it's great.
And a lot
I'll-
of this too, I think, is in line with what the city council is trying to get their commissioners to do now.
Right.
Take more responsibility and bring information to them. I think this is great. This covers everything, so.
Okay, so I want to go back to item 8A and go to section 2-4, 104I.
Thought you might be interested.
And the only thing that I see here is to formulate policies and plans for planting care and removal of, I would like to see that sentence kept in there and just put parks, recreation and parks facilities only.
Ah,
You want
okay.
public
Okay.
places taken out?
And maybe public places, anything that we have some form of jurisdiction over. But again, right-of-ways, street trees, things of that don't pertain to us anyway.
That's a good way to address it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like
Public
that.
streets.
I like that.
I think it's
Parkways.
interesting because half of our budget is public works, you know, so I think we should be looking at these things when they come up, like the, you know, the fountain.
Right, well.
Well,
yeah,
you-
that's-
you can
well,
leave it
because it's
out.
on- Because it's in Libby Bowl.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I understand.
Well,
that.
and it says in all public places of the city.
Right.
If you take out public streets and parkways there.
Right. I just wanted to insert, I don't want to
No, that's good.
lose the ability of, if you're going to remove something or you're going to insert a tree or something into one of our facilities that we're not aware of it, or that, we can't have an open discussion about it with the public.
Because we've actually talked a lot about the trees at Libby Park and placement of the picnic tables
Right.
and things like that, so
Okay.
taking care of the trees.
So,
and-
if I may take a little shot at something here, how would the commission feel if we added the words aid and advise
Yeah.
in the formulation of policies and plans for the planting, and
Great.
could you give me your language again for, I think you said for can you give me your?
For recreation and park facilities only.
Thank you. Okay.
Perfect.
That's good.
So it would be to formulate policies and plans for recreation and park facilities of the city.
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
Okay. Okay.
We
Are
made
we
a
all
little
in
progress.
concurrent on that? I'm sorry,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, but just want to make sure. Okay.
Yes.
All right, well,
And then we all agree with the school, or the
With what?
team, the youth member?
Oh, we didn't revisit
We didn't
that
talk
one.
about the youth member.
Um,
I'm fine with
do you guys want to, I thought we were all in agreement on that, that's why it was
Oh,
written in
okay.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That we agreed to change it from being a Ojai School District student to a student of the Ojai Valley.
I'm okay.
okay.
Great, Steve, so,
Yeah, thank you.
Little bit each time.
yeah,
Okay, direction is clear, and we'll make those changes, and we'll bring it back for consideration at the March regular meeting.
great. Carol, did you, Carlin, I'm sorry, did you want to say anything? Did you have any input you'd like to share with us on this?
I always want to say something. Listening to you, I can tell that the commissioners are trying to be considerate, sensitive, whatever you want to call it. I would prefer you be specific on what it is that you would like included in your powers and duties. Present that to Steve and to Sophocles, and then let staff come back to you to see if something specific you desire is appropriate or not appropriate. Rather than trying to be
Tiptoeing around.
Congenial?
congenial.
Well, I specifically would like to retain that in our
I agree.
duties.
We hear you, Carlin.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't, I feel comfortable. You guys, are we all comfortable with this?
I'm comfortable.
All right. Okay, so, so Steve, you're going to come back to us in March?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. All right, so, discussion item B?
So this is another thing that we've been working on for a while, and I have another handout for you. Not asking you to take action on this tonight, but, Chair, the committee has met a couple of times now to look at policies and procedures that other cities have established for naming a facility, naming of city facilities, and also for public memorials. What we've done, and we met yesterday, so we were trying to pull this together today, just so that we could get it into your hands, so that you had a chance to look at it and digest it. And this is really an amalgamation of a couple different policies, but we went through them line by line, and to make sure that they, fit Ojai and were good for Ojai. So, and a lot of this one was based on a policy from the city of Selma and Pasadena. Thank you. So what we've done is defined what sites would fall under this policy. That's section 3. And then what we've then done is to determine or suggested some criteria for, when somebody could actually come in and make a request. Obviously, different cities do it different ways, and there's a lot of different ways that you can approach this. I'm skipping around a little bit here, but if you go to 4.2, the individual organizational recognition, and we borrowed this from one of the policies, but then modified it a bit. So basically, it says that they can be considered if one of two criteria are met. If it's an individual, they would have to be deceased for at least 1 year. I think the 1 year period is in there just so that it takes some of the emotion out of it. Be very difficult, somebody has recently passed away, emotions are pretty high. I think that guards against that a little bit. And then if they're named in the memorial, the person should have been a resident of the Ojai Valley for 5 years and/or made significant contribution to the community in terms of improvement of quality of life. Work that a little bit. And again, we looked at some of the other policies and kind of tried to borrow from them and see what made sense. And then the other criteria is that the significance of the contribution from an individual or organization, which can then be evaluated. So, you know, it doesn't always necessarily have to be that it's been a person who has passed away, and it could be an organization if they've done something of, you know, of great significance. So that's the other way that could come forward.
4.3, or 4.31A, you need to have been a resident for 5 years. But under the criteria of 4.32, you don't need to have been a resident, you just have to have done meaningful and significant.
I think it both fall, aren't, it's continued, this one and this one, I think it.
Well,
It says following
One
two
of the
criteria.
two.
well,
So
one
for
is,
the
one
second,
is
you don't have
one is
to.
a being, and 2 is an organization.
Individual or organization on number 2.
Right.
One of the two following are met.
No, I just wanted to be clear. Because on 2, it can be, the 4.32 is an individual or organization.
Right.
Can be honored, but they don't have to live, it's just in the valley, it's just a matter of their significance of their impact.
That's right.
Their
That's correct.
contributions.
Right.
Okay, good, sorry, I just want to make sure.
And again, we tried to do our best just to kind of come up with something here. You know,
It's really helpful.
I don't think any of us on the committee are completely, you know, married to any of this, but we wanted to get something to you so that we could start to have a discussion on it. And again, maybe come back and when you're ready, bring it back for final adoption and consideration. And again, what we're trying to do here is come up with a recommendation that we can give back to the city council for a
Is
policy.
this, Steve, is this going to remain on our agenda until we close it out? Is it going to be a regular agenda item?
I think it should be.
Yes,
Okay.
as,
think I need to read
as much
this
as the
online.
commission.
Because I'd like to really
Yeah.
read this.
Yes, that was the intent. I was not, not suggesting or pushing that we take any adoption tonight. In fact, it's not even on the agenda for adoption. It's on as a report, but want to let you know that we have been busy.
Yeah, no, it's
And
really- it's very
we're-
helpful.
we're getting somewhere, but again, there's a lot of nuance to this, and trying to digest it in the public meeting is certainly not the place, but I figured we could at least, you know, go through it, and then if there were specific questions of the committee members or what we were thinking, we could go into that. So, it also gives, if you turn to the next page, some guidelines associated with fundraising campaigns. We thought it would be good to keep this in here. This is when somebody wants to do a fundraising campaign. So organizations affiliated with the city that desire to raise funds for any city-sponsored project must receive a recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Commission when it relates to recreation facilities or parks, and then receive approval from the city council prior to attaching naming opportunities to the fundraising campaign. And we're proposing that if there are proposals that promote alcohol, tobacco products, religious organization, or political organizations, that those not be allowed. And then they have to notify the staff if a naming proposal is under consideration in order to facilitate administrative review, so it keeps the city in the loop. And of course, acceptance of a naming proposal by an organization is of course all subject to final approval by the city council. And the next section that talks about the procedure, and I like this because I think it gives a process to follow here. So 511 is suggesting that at least 120 days prior to opening a new city facility, the city council shall direct the appropriate commission to review and make recommendations on the naming of the city facility. So that puts it right where it should be, in the driver's seat of the city council, that they decide that they want the facility to be named or not, and then they can give appropriate direction, to a commission, or however they would like to proceed with that. But if it is referred to the commission, then the commission would solicit ideas and suggestions from the community and be the process to kind of go through that vetting. And then groups or individuals can submit nominations for naming a new facility on a form provided. Recommendations may also come from other city boards or commissions, and all recommendations will be given the same consideration without regard to the nomination source. Each facility would be named in a separate nomination process, and the appropriate commission would review and make recommendations to the council on the proposed name. And the South Pasadena City Council will have nothing to do with this.
But the,
See, we missed
but
that.
the South Ojai.
I think we'll keep that at the Ojai City Council is responsible for the final approval of
I was
the
going to see
proposed
if you
name.
were going to read over that.
And then it also addresses, and I like this too, because it addresses existing facilities, because as we know, we do get requests from time to time, and I think sometimes that can maybe be a little difficult to deal with. So requests to rename existing facilities would be made by completing a nomination form. Staff would review that and then forward it to the appropriate commission. And as it states, care and sensitivity should be given to an existing facility name for historical reasons. Great care in considering a renaming request when the existing name relates to an event, era, or person or family of historical relevance. So, in other words, don't take this lightly. Consideration may be given to naming city-owned land or facility after an individual when a significant percentage of the land or cost for development has been donated to the city. And of course, the recommendation of the appropriate commission will be forwarded to the city council, and the decision of the city council will be final. So it does lay out a process if somebody comes in and says, really think it's time to rename X. And then finally, Section 6 deals with plaques, markers, and memorials. If they're requested to be on city property, obviously they have to be in accordance with city standards, and we would have a way that they could make that application to the city and indicate the location, size, and the writing to be on the plaque, so we would get all that ahead of time. And they would need to be designed to blend with or complement the existing park or facility. And they would have to be an appropriate bronze or other pre-approved material by the city. And a written maintenance agreement for each plaque, marker, or memorial would be reviewed and approved by both the Recreation and the Public Works directors. I don't know if that's, if that's where the buck should stop on that or not. As I read through this, I'm kind of wondering and would like the commission's input on how you think we should really address that best.
6.4?
Yeah. Yes. Do you feel that should go up to a commission or go up to the council?
The maintenance agreement?
The
whole-
actual decision, I'm sorry.
No, so, 'cause
Well, what-
just for clarification, are these
Yeah.
plaques and markers that are related to a
I was
naming
gonna ask the
application? Or is this allowing for separate applications just for a plaque, marker, or memorial for a person?
Yeah, these are plaques or markers or memorials, not necessarily the naming of a city facility.
So I think you need another form and a
this-
different review process, or are you gonna use the same review process?
Same
and-
review, and I think your question is yes, I think the city council should still approve it.
Yep.
Like, for example, we still need to put one at the skate park
Right.
for the donor wall. So it's,
Well, that needs to be brought forward, someone needs to file an application,
Yeah.
and we need to go through the process.
because that seems like a planning but it's a
But-
park.
But it's actually a
A
park.
park, okay. So that makes sense.
And if it needs to go to planning, then it would go to that body also.
Okay.
But more
I don't
more
think
importantly,
so,
on plaques, markers, and memorials, again, we need to have an application for it. And again, I would like to see that as a commission, again, what's our advice? And forward that to the city council with either our blessing or not our blessing. And again, let the city council be the one that says yea or nay. So they would have the final say. So they would, so the person having having that opportunity, for instance, if we gave it a no, would have one more opportunity to present itself to the city council and allow them to hear it and let them make that final decision.
So the commission would basically give a yay or a nay
Yeah.
recommendation to council.
But does it have the same criteria? I'm just asking, because someone wanting to memorialize someone somewhere is not,
With a plaque.
with a plaque, may be different than naming an entire facility after them. I'm just asking this question, is it the same criteria?
Well, I don't think we got that far into
Okay.
that, so.
Right, but I don't think I'd be opposed to it being the same criteria.
I don't,
I mean, the guidelines are pretty concise. And if you followed those guidelines, I think whether it's for a plaque or for a renaming or naming, that those 5 or 6, they're guidelines. Those 5 or 6 things are guidelines for us to review and to base our consideration on.
well, it would seem to me that the guidelines for consideration to name a city facility would probably be higher.
Or greater.
Than just,
Right.
than a plaque
Than-
or a marker or a memorial.
Right, that's just my 2 cents.
I have the same reaction, but I
it's
don't
Well-
have
okay to
any,
have the
but I don't
policies
have
to-
any feedback on what they would be
Okay.
at
Right.
this point.
Yeah.
Maybe we can look into that.
Okay, well, we can, let's all think about that and bring
Yeah.
that back.
Well, we could even, if you want, we could take that back to the committee and
Right.
work on the development a little bit more.
Okay,
I think so. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think you guys have done a great job. There's a lot of work in this
Yeah.
already. It's very helpful.
But I do want to sit with this.
yeah, I think
for a
maybe
little-
we should even define what a plaque, what a marker is, and what a memorial is.
Yeah, I think you're right.
we can have-
Because when I think of a
Examples of that.
plaque, I'm thinking of something pretty small. A marker could be a park bench,
Right.
could be,
You could donate a tree and there's a marker.
Right.
For something
Right.
like that too.
Okay,
Or a bench.
right,
Okay.
okay.
Well, I didn't mean to do all the talking.
No?
So-
No, that's
Oh, that's
good.
okay.
That was a lot. That's perfect.
I sit on the committee, but I think you're doing a hell of a
I
job.
wanted to thank Commissioner
that.
Becker and Chair Haney for their assistance on this. We've had a couple of meetings now, and we were able to move through this in pretty rapid fashion, so.
Thank you. A lot of work done on your part.
Yeah. Okay, so,
It's off.
so we're all gonna review this, and again, this will be part of next month's, agenda item, okay. All right, so, Steve, who has, C, you or Sophocles?
Well, I think that's for all of us. Really, this is just, we've talked about this conceptually a couple of times. We're just about done with the work at the Boyd Center, and we've wanted to do, an open house where we would invite all the recreation players and organizations to come and talk a little bit about what's going on, and also use this as an opportunity, I think, to showcase the direction that we've been moving and some of our improvements. So, I think, and I don't know if it's best maybe to start with, let me
When
take
does our
that
next
back.
rec brochure come out?
The next activity guide is May, the beginning of May.
That's too long, okay.
Yeah, May 1st.
Might be.
When is
So-
construction going to be
Yeah.
done?
Spring.
The construction is essentially complete. I mean, the
I know he was
doors.
doing some. other-
Yeah, there's just touch-up work to
Okay.
do, but.
Well, we've still got to move back into the office and
Right,
that
but-
type of thing.
95% right now.
We're about
Yeah.
95%, but,
Maybe April
But
isn't
the,
bad.
moving into the office is.
April's the realistic
yeah.
time, maybe?
I'm thinking April's.
yeah, I get, what I was hoping to hear was, I think this is one of those things we just have to kind of pick a date
Yeah,
that's
that's what I'm
enough
thinking.
far in advance and hopefully not pick something that, make sure we're not picking a date that's the same day that the tennis tournament starts or,
Yes. Which, as you get into May, is pretty much, May
Yeah.
is so booked.
and
April
even,
would be
even late
fine,
April.
And then we could have actually one of our meetings out there too,
Yeah.
if we wanted. That's what we had discussed before, that we were gonna start holding a meeting every once in a while out there. And we even got support from our
Well,
Well,
I
the
think as
tennis
far as
tournament-
picking a date, we're gonna need Sophocles and your input,
Yeah.
because you guys have the calendar.
That's what I was, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
Okay.
the Ojai
Well-
Tennis Tournament is the last full weekend in April, so.
Oh, it
I don't have
is?
my- Yeah, it's
Yes.
always that last
How about beginning of May when
Full
your
weekend,
brochure comes
whatever
out
that
and
is.
we
It'd be
celebrate?
so nice to do it
Yeah.
at the same time as the brochure, I think.
What about
We
May?
could, the brochure will come out at the beginning of May, whatever
It's
that,
hard.
you know, I say
Second
May
week in May.
1st, whatever.
What if we,
yeah.
can we do it when our meeting is? No.
We
Are you
could.
looking for a weekend day, a weeknight? What was the thought?
May
I-
1st
I'm-
is the third.
Honestly, I'm
Okay.
looking to the commission to give us some thoughts on that. I mean, we can certainly work on, through our calendars and figure out what's available, but,
I think
you
during the
know,
week, you're not gonna, in the evening time, you're not gonna get a lot of people out there.
So you're thinking like a
I-
weekend, like
I
a
think it
Saturday
should be
night?
on a Saturday
Yeah.
evening or
A
something.
Saturday, or, yes, Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Or maybe
May
I think
10th?
that's when we should
Or
really
maybe-
look
right.
at it.
Or maybe we could have the May 8th meeting there.
Exactly.
Well, actually,
it's
our
May
May 1st is our
1st,
first
yeah.
meeting, and, or we could have our May 1st meeting and then follow up on the weekend with the.
On the 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And this will give us plenty and ample time to get notice out there, put it on our Facebook that we're having an open house. We want them to come and see, review.
Do you have a
Yeah,
postcard going
we'll-
out as well?
We'll have a postcard
The
going
brochure.
out,
So that could be an
leading into the
invitation.
brochure
Perfect.
coming
We
out.
could
So
put
we
that
could
on.
put the open house invite on that postcard.
yeah, and that actually is
I
a
like
really good
That's it.
idea.
You're
So-
doing
You're
two things at
promoting-
once.
You're doing
yeah.
two kinds of promotion at
Yeah.
once, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe, I think that was.
And
so
what,
May
and what that
3rd.
open house will
It
look
works.
like, at this point, I'm not sure, but certainly all the contractors could be available
that'd
to
be
answer
great.
questions, or
Right.
I
even
think we
do
should
a
have a senior
demonstration.
fitness
or-
class demonstrating for us.
Senior strength program, you
Strength
mean?
program, sorry.
Well, I think that maybe
I
May
gotta work
3rd?
on that.
a person from each one, like your gymnastics program, she works, so they could be there.
The Saturday could be a lovely day to do exhibition stuff.
And I think,
Yeah.
From
I think
various
we should
different
look at that
programs.
as a
The,
Saturday.
You know, there is some advantages to that, I'm sorry.
on the banner that we raise on the avenue, is that a pre-made, is that the same banner that you put up every year?
It
When
is,
you're-
when our activity guides are out,
Right,
yes.
because it'd be nice to put a banner up there that says open house.
So
Can we do
Again,
that?
if it's there
try and
for
book that, yeah.
If
a week or so.
If there's a week, yeah, it's pretty tightly booked, that banner
We-
space, but if there's an open
We can
week,
check.
we can
Certainly worth
check.
checking and maybe adjusting our
Right.
weekend based on when you could get a week with the banner up.
Yeah, but it's,
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty useful.
Yeah.
so, I'm sorry, when did you say your?
The 8th.
Well, I think we threw out either the 3rd or the 8th.
Our meeting's on the 1st.
If we did the meeting, we could do an open house on our meeting night, which is the 1st, would be the beginning, and some people might come then. And then we could follow up with a full open house on Saturday, the 3rd.
Personally, I really think it's probably best to not combine the meeting with the open
Just have our
house.
meeting.
Yeah, I think
don't-
this
I
should
don't
be a
think we'll,
totally separate, yeah, more and I think it needs to be a Saturday function. I'd like to see, if we could, if Public Works could get our signs, our new signs.
Oh, yeah, I don't know when they'll be in,
We
but,
could bring them and do an uncovering of them, or an
That's true.
unveiling of them, and
Okay, so
make
that's-
it a day there.
That's the 3rd or the
So-
10th then, or the 2 weekends, the two
Yeah.
first weekends in May. I think at this
See
point, you'll
which
have
one
to go to the
works.
calendar and good luck, because May is just jammed.
Here's another thought, is there an opening day for any sports on that Saturday? Is there, is that baseball or AYSO or? Because if you coordinate it with an opening day, you're gonna have that facility filled, and it just wouldn't be
not
bad to
until,
do something in
March.
conjunction.
March for baseball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything's
our-
already open for that season.
Our five-a-side program will begin mid-March.
Right.
It will end, maybe like the end, sorry, thank you. Maybe ending ceremony, let me see when that league, May 24th, it actually ends.
Okay.
So-
Well, I just threw that out as an idea.
We
No, I
will,
like that.
Yeah.
actually, we will have soccer
Going
going on
on,
that Saturday,
which
though.
would be
I mean,
Well,
there'll
well,
be
then
lots
must
of
be something
action out
going on
there.
there.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
you
But we
can
talked-
combine the open house with activities that'll be going on. We actually have
You'll have
every
volleyball as well,
Saturday.
won't you?
I think notices should go out to the schools for them to put things in their boxes or whatever
Right.
they do out there, and really get this advertised out there, because I'd like to see it. I think people coming in, they'll get to meet us, you know, we can talk to them, and anything that they have concerns.
And Sophocles, I think we talked about having your other instructors available and showing, you could have the art room going, you could have
Absolutely.
something going in the,
I mean, we'll have Tai Chi that morning, but depending on what our open house time is, 1 to 4, whatever it is, the contractors would be more than willing to come in and do a 15-minute demonstration for each of their activities, or however we want to set that up in the multipurpose room.
Have sign
So
ups.
I think the dates that we were picking were based on the desire to launch the new brochure
So when-
and the open house at the same time, which would be the first 2 weeks in May.
When does that, when does the postcard for the activity guide go out?
It will go out like a week before. Typically, we put it out, I believe, Steve, the week before the activity guide is due to come out.
And it's due to come out the first week in May?
Yes.
Okay.
So if we know we're going to have the open house on the 3rd, we'll be
Okay.
sure to have that
Well-
activity guide ready for that time and get that postcard out
Okay.
at least the week before.
Well, we'll do some calendar checking, and, I mean,
Okay.
some of it might depend
That would be
on, you know,
perfect
if we're missing several key contractors or players on those weekends, then we might want to look at something else, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it. I do think it'd be nice to have, you know, all the different activities and all the rooms engaged at that point. So, are there any, I guess another way that I want to kind of crack this egg was, are there any dates right now that you folks just know are just out for you? So that we just know, don't even try to go, you know? You know, for example, if we see that the last weekend, you know, maybe we got to do it second, you know, third or fourth weekend in April or something like that, or, and you're right, as we start getting farther in the month, you know, you run into the music
Graduation.
festival, well, that's June.
And
That's the
but I
second
think
week
you
in
lose
June.
parents in May too, the farther in you get.
Yeah.
Because I can just tell you it's harried and there's
Right.
things going on all the time
Yeah,
until
I would say.
school's
I
out.
can
I wouldn't go
relate,
any
yeah.
later than what we're suggesting.
Okay,
So May 8th.
So either, you
Or
know,
the
10th, I think
3rd
it's
or
the 10th
the
or the
10th?
3rd.
I think the 3rd.
so no later than the second Saturday in
Exactly.
May is what we're asking
If
for.
you have to, you have to, but I think
Yeah.
ideally, your audience is going to.
Sure. Okay, and then what about a time? I heard,
It sounds like it's an all day, or, you know, most of the day.
I think it should be at least like an early morning and then mid to mid-afternoon or something so that you
10
can
to
get
4 or
both crowds.
something,
10 to
or-
4.
so there's
10 to 3.
two thoughts on that. You know, if you've got an extended schedule, it might make it more easier for more people to get there. On the other hand, if it's a little bit more compressed, there might be a higher energy level.
Yeah.
Just because if you've got, you know, if you're taking, I don't know if we're gonna be like taking groups through or something, or if we're just gonna kind of let them, you know,
open house.
self-explore. But, you know, I guess my concern would be if it's an all-day thing, that we might just have people kind of trickling through.
Maybe 4 hours is
I
plenty.
think that you
Like
have
I do.
sports, and so if you want to reach people, if you do one time, you're going to miss one group. If you do another time,
True.
you're going to miss another group. So I think it just depends on what we're after
Okay.
and what the lineup is. Are we inviting people to come participate in a variety of things throughout the day so that each time has a draw? Or are we literally inviting them to come and we'll show you through and you can do some activities?
Why don't you-
Right.
And I really think that we don't do this that often, and I think we should capitalize on it and make it a day where there are ongoing events and exciting, you know, possibly even prizes or things to participate in, or a lot of different ways to, I mean, that's just, I don't know, I think it's an opportunity. And I don't think we do things like this
We have
often.
never done it.
Never, yeah, and so.
We've been talking about this for a year. I think we should work on the date and then have a committee work on the.
Well, and I was just gonna say, I would be happy to
Yeah,
help with
me
this.
too.
I know you're great at these kinds
I'd
of
love to do
things.
this.
So once we get a date, let's set a committee and then.
Okay.
Randy really wants to do this.
Well,
No, actually, I'm
Organize.
thinking more, no, actually, I'm glad you two are stepping up for it, but I'm also thinking more of refreshments or food or something that,
All that stuff.
you
All that
know,
good
some inexpensive barbecue or hot dogs, hamburgers, and potato chips and a soda, but something that we're giving back to the community.
Oh, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Instead of charging,
But I
we're
think-
giving back.
Absolutely. No, I absolutely think so.
And so our window shouldn't be a 6-hour window, maybe a 3-hour, 4-hour window would be easier to do that in.
That's fine.
So-
Just so long as we have enough time that we're
Bunch of
grabbing.
food trucks.
well, along the lines of what you said, whether it's, I would more go with demonstration than participatory, but
you
we
could do a little
we
bit
can
of
do
both,
it maybe
yeah.
a little both, but I just think that the Kung Fu class that we have, they love doing their own demonstrations, and then we could invite people, do both, do a 5-minute demonstration and invite people to come out, and we have this new flamenco class that, as a matter of fact, is running
yeah.
tonight. And they would be more than happy to do a demonstration. I'm sure they're going to do a little performance at the end of that 6-week session for their parents. They-
Just as long as they're not
I think you
demonstrating
need
on
to
us.
also think of the people we want to bring there that aren't coming. So I think it's
Right.
also having activities of the people we want to bring and activities we want to have that we don't.
Yeah.
So
And I
trying to
would-
bring the teens and the, you know, I mean, doing that as well, but.
And I would hope it's
I
a
know.
venue for, doesn't have to be the way it is, but like the skate group, or the bike group to come.
Yeah,
And the
that'd be
skate
great.
group to come.
And they can have-
And affiliated organizations that we participate with, so it's a day of community as a welcome, reopening the community center with community. So the people are there for a variety of different reasons, and it's not a single purpose.
Yeah, and we also
Right.
talked about working with groups in the
Well, it's
community
an
too.
invitation, so
we have a lot
as
of,
part of your planning, you need to maybe put together a list of,
The Land
of
Conservancy,
the,
I
right,
mean,
of
this
all
is
the
whole,
other entities that we
Yeah.
would like to
Exactly.
invite.
to participate in this celebrating
Right.
of, recreation facility in the
I think we should do
community.
dodgeball.
And when you do, soft clues, when you're doing demonstrations, you can also do, you can do more than one at a time. So you could have a gymnastics demonstration going
Right.
on along with a
Great.
dodgeball demonstration, along with a art,
I just wanna play.
You can schedule that facility for 4 hours to have 3 of something going on every hour.
Sure, absolutely, and then people will go where their interests are.
Right.
They
Right.
don't, might not be interested in flamenco, but they're over there at gymnastics or up in the weight room, so we.
Or
could
hanging
have-
out with Gary.
Yeah, exactly.
And must be present to claim your prize.
Yeah, there you go.
That
I
sounds
think it's very
great.
exciting.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it
Great
will be
ideas, thank
exciting.
you.
The local stores here and say, what would you like to
Yeah, okay.
donate in a drawing?
That'd be great.
Okay, so you two are gonna champion this?
And
You are the
someone else-
committee?
I am happy
Who
to
else
help.
would like to join the committee?
I will.
Thank you.
I'm a caterer by trade, so any piece of equipment.
We're gonna have quite a
city
party.
needs.
But
Okay,
you
well-
have to, but he's gone. Hold on, you just said you were
Yes,
gone.
I am gone.
The second
We'll
weekend.
just
The
delegate a
second
bunch of stuff.
weekend.
Okay, and I am a great cook, so
Good.
well, there we go.
I will put
Perfect.
you up there.
I'd prefer to
Be
cook.
barbecuing for 4 hours.
Yeah.
I have no problem with
That's right
that.
where he wants to be.
So
We can talk about a barbecue.
Sounds
Are you
good.
guys wanting to meet, you'll set up, or do you want us to set up that meeting time, or?
Well, actually, I think what we need to do
Pursue a
is
date.
work on a date, and then if, we'll come back just as the formality to, we'll put it on the March agenda to appoint the ad hoc committee, and then hopefully at that evening, we can settle on a date, and then we can work on bringing some of these ideas to fruition.
Steve, is there anything that we would violate if we got people to donate the food? Anything?
Well,
Use the snack bar?
we could.
We could.
We have the permits to be able to provide food to
I think we
folks,
should
so.
table this until we're farther along,
Right.
Okay.
if that's okay.
Yeah, oh, that's fine with me.
I think this is a.
Because I think we need to look at all of that before we get out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
You actually have one meeting. We have one commission meeting before they May, right? April, May, 2.
Well, this would be a special.
All right.
Well, we'll meet on.
You're
March
right,
and
though.
April.
It would
An
be,
ad
it would
hoc.
be really nice to get the ad hoc, for formalities, okay.
We can't report an ad.
Maybe we can get
an
some
ad hoc
community
meeting
volunteers
tonight?
for the part, for the open house too.
I,
But we're just advisory.
I would not think that I don't think it's going to hold us up. We'll come back at March, we'll
We're
have a
good,
date
yep.
at that point.
Okay.
I think we know
We're good.
who's willing to serve on the committee. Well, if anybody's got ideas or thoughts, feel free to, and please do forward them off to both Softclees and I.
Yeah. I
And
think
we'll
we
hold
could-
on to that, and
I think,
we can start working on it.
Of
When we
course,
get to that-
in the meantime, we'll bring it up to our rec staff. and
Right.
We have a staff meeting next Wednesday, or this coming Wednesday, I should say, and we'll talk about the open house, and I'm sure they'll have their input and ideas about what they'd like to see as well.
yeah. And I think too, when we do have a date and staff's had their information and what they want to do, we could put out maybe on Facebook or something to get volunteers in the community. Because there's probably a lot of people that would like to do that too.
You-
so.
You're a friend.
Or anywhere.
You're a friend of Facebook. You're always
Somewhere.
liking our posts.
I
and we
know, I
will-
like your photos.
We
on
will
there.
certainly throw that onto Facebook too, to invite the community to get involved.
Okay, well, now on to another the item.
There we go. So, I know we have had a little discussion in the past about, the commission has been desirous to actually hold some of their meetings at Sarzati, at the Boyd Center. So we wanted to put this on for discussion and, see what the commission's preference is. I know that we have heard from our esteemed mayor at the previous meeting, and not to speak for her, but she had indicated that that there is support for holding meetings there on occasion, and I'll stop trying to speak for the mayor at this point. So really, it's on here for discussion to see what the commission would like to do, and if there are some specific dates, that we can put those on the calendar and get them held over at the, assuming we would do them in the multipurpose room in the Boyd Center.
And just to comment, when I returned home after the last meeting, and Rob received a nice long email from me, and one of the things that I related was that I now supported the Commission's desire to periodically have meetings over at Sarasota Park. I was opposed to that at X point in time because I'm too rigid. You know, here's the council chambers, have it right here. I've become a little more flexible, so I'm supporting your desire to have the meetings over there. And we talked about the equipment we have currently and the equipment we need to make it easy to have commission meetings plus other meetings that we could broadcast over there. And so the city manager said that he would be asking Steve and Greg and James to coordinate on the equipment that we need, and perhaps we could take it from the PEG funding.
Right, and we were working on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think quarterly would be nice.
I think that would be good.
Yeah.
Well, and I think if it relates, I mean, I think that there's certain things that it might have a, you know, as we're discussing
A
that
value of
park,
being
or
there.
a value of
Yeah.
being there, so that you're getting the community there. So for instance, if we're discussing redoing the playground there, or something specific to that
Bring 'em
facility, I think it's a nice time to have a meeting over there, because then you're hoping to make it as easy as possible for the community to participate, who lives right around there.
And I remember
So
we
I
had-
think we're all in agreement, it would be one quarterly if we can, and then that date being set either a month or 2
Annual
months
calendar.
prior, so that there's time to coordinate with the facility, making sure that we have a room, and then taking a look at our agenda and seeing if we can match a day with a,
Or as
with
needed,
an
you know,
event,
right,
or
as it
something
makes
of that
sense,
nature.
yeah.
I feel like it has to be something like every 3 months, or something that people can rely on, that they
Right.
would understand that, you know, just,
makes sense.
like
Okay.
it's the first Thursday, but every 3 months, or some, you know, or every fourth month, whatever we decide. And then if we decide that's not the right one, then we would give notice, but something people can expect.
Just so there's not any misunderstanding or false expectations. You know, right now, and I'm looking to our technical support specialist at the end of the room there. You know, right now, for us to do something at the Boyd Center, it's possible, but it requires a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of setup that's involved. So, you know, for example, if we had some burning issue and boy, we really need to have a meeting at Sursati, we could do it and we could broadcast it, so that's not a problem. What getting the equipment would do would make it so that we can pretty much just do that setup one time and then leave it there. Is that correct, Mr. Hahn? So what it does then is it really makes it a lot more feasible for us to be able to do something like that. You know, right now it takes a bit of a Herculean effort to pull all that off, but it doesn't mean that we couldn't do it. But again, if we have that equipment, it's a snap then going
So
forward.
what I'm hearing is at some point, if and when this happens, then we should discuss the schedule.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And in the meantime, but again, having said that, it doesn't mean that we couldn't, you know, plan some number of meetings over there,
So-
even if we didn't have
As
equipment.
needed.
I have one question, so right now, all the commission meetings are here.
Correct.
So if the Historical Commission wanted to meet at the Boyd Center, if we go through this setup process properly, and they wanted to have a community meeting for whatever, that again, now we have another facility where other commissions could use it. Let's say planning had to do a large presentation or a large meeting. Planning could then actually go over there and use that to do you know, like the new water ordinance that's gonna be
Public
coming into
workshop,
effect.
is that what you're-
Yeah, either a public workshop or also just a presentation of a new policy that's coming into effect and how it might impact the public. Having it there would be a better venue than having it in this, I mean, we've all been here where you can't breathe because there's so many people in this room. So it's just another opportunity.
Can I ask a question? Could anyone else use that? Could the Park and Recs department use that? Could the media class at Nordhoff use that room and the cameras? I mean,
I
if
think
they're.
that would be up to the gentleman.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
I'm
that'd
just
be-
thinking if we're going to go to the effort to do that and it's for 4 times a year, then, you know,
No, I
it'd be
believe
nice.
it'll be used more often than that.
Okay,
And
that'd be great.
you can schedule a commission meeting over there now. It's just that it's more difficult for us to
Right.
get the
Yeah.
equipment in place. And because I didn't want it, to fall through the cracks, the idea of making it more user-friendly over there. That's why we've gone ahead and the mayor has, I'm the mayor, the city manager has said he would request or convey it to Steve and Greg and James
Okay,
to go
great.
ahead and
Thank you
get
for
it
doing that.
in
Yeah,
place.
great.
And and I'm not sure, I get kind of fuzzy after so many meetings and stuff, but I think the planning issue right now is the AT&T cell tower.
Right.
And we had an overflow crowd at
they
the
were
last
Yeah.
public,
Yes.
at the last planning commission meeting. We also had an overflow crowd at the last council meeting, and it wasn't an agendized item. And I understand, and I no longer remember where I got this information, but I understand that the next planning commission meeting, when the AT&T tower is on the agenda, for some reason, I'm thinking that the venue would be moved over to the somewhere at Sarasonic Park. Am I getting it confused with something else?
I'm about where you are, Madam Mayor. I remember something about that, but I'm not exactly sure, so I don't want to state.
But the point being, when we need a larger facility, and something else that I would like to look at, I love it when I come up with these things, the capacity of this room is 74.
Yeah.
What is the capacity over at and where would we be most likely to set up a
Multipurpose
meeting?
room.
The multipurpose room, yeah.
What is the
Yeah.
capacity of the multipurpose room?
I believe it's 150.
So almost twice of what we have here.
Well, and if you absolutely had to, you could, depending on timing, set up in the gym. Acoustics are awful, but it's a
True.
larger space over there, and if you're gonna go to the effort and know that you're gonna need more than even 150, it's.
Well, what I'd like to
scheduling,
interject
but-
into it is on community meetings that exceed our 74 person capacity, why not have our own facility available to us versus having to go rent the gymnasium at the junior high
Right.
or rent a facility at
Exactly.
Nordhoff? We have facilities. So this is actually, all of this is coming together nicely, that it can be used for more than one function.
I agree.
Is that, well, Steve just walked out, but I think that meeting is scheduled for Wednesday? Is that the one where, I don't know,
I think Steve went to get his calendar.
for the tower? Yeah, possibly, and I know Rhonda Basur, the city clerk, has
I don't know
asked
that
for
it's
use of
scheduled
that
for
space, but,
Wednesday. Is-
okay.
Not this Wednesday, is it?
No. We've talked about, she talked about wanting to schedule a meeting in the multipurpose room. And I don't know if it was in reference to the cell tower or not, but I told her it would be available, so. Not
I'm
sure.
just not sure at the meeting.
But of course, all of these meetings, and we, just like the commissioner dinner that we had there, and I thought it was a huge success.
It was.
For those
That
that
was great.
attended. It got a lot of positive feedback. In this, whether it's the open house or scheduling these commission meetings at the rec, it's a fantastic idea, and we want to welcome it because it just, what we're always trying to do is give that park more exposure and
Right.
more walkthrough.
And when,
So,
we had 30
uh,
people that
what's-
we had
sorry.
30 people the last time
Mhm.
that we did that.
The last meeting there?
Oh, yeah, it was quite a while ago,
Yeah.
like September a year ago or something. I can't remember. It was.
That is correct.
Actually, maybe even longer.
It was September of 2013.
Yeah.
Good
so-
memory.
I know.
Okay, so we have a consensus on that?
Yep.
But I want to just add one last thing, though, Randy, is we just have to be sensitive to the actual programming that we
Yeah.
have going on there. So as you stated, if it's a month ahead or a month and a half ahead, then we can rearrange some of those programming.
Isn't that a nice problem,
It is a nice problem.
that you have programming?
Yes, it is.
I think we could make a
Okay.
year schedule.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I may, before we leave this item, I just want to give a little bit of clarity regarding the issue that was raised with the AT&T tower. Right now, the city is waiting for a resubmission of the application from AT&T. Once we get that, and we don't know when we will get that, it will be calendared for a future meeting of the Planning Commission. And yes, staff has discussed trying to schedule and hold that meeting at the multipurpose room at the Boyd Center, but again, we don't have any firm date at this point since we don't have a new application in, but that is the direction that is going right now.
Great. Okay. All right, who's going to tackle line item E?
Because we've been trying to keep the commission in the loop with what's happening with the budget and our decisions, while we feel this is a relatively minor item, what we're looking at is about a $3,000 expense. We obviously try to be very prudent about spending money and, try very hard to make sure that we're not being frivolous or replacing things before their time. But we've got one desk that got pulled out of there that simply will not fit back in there with the current arrangement. And we think that this would be a good opportunity. We've got a nice fresh space. It'd be good if we could get 3 matching desks there and a credenza unit. And we know that we could do that for not to exceed $3,000. We have available funds either that could come from what we anticipate as some overage from this year's budget, and we still have some overage funds from last year's budget as well that could be put towards that. It's within the city manager's authority to approve the purchase, but again, just wanted to keep full disclosure and didn't want to have folks walk in there and be surprised and, wonder where the money came from or how we managed to do that. So, but having said that, if I get a lot of resistance and concern from the commission, I don't think we would be wanting to go forward and make the purchase. But, so that is what we're looking at, and just wanted to keep you in the loop.
What's your
I've
thoughts?
seen that space, and I think that the staff needs the tools they need to do their jobs, and they're in that office all the time, and everything in there was extremely well-used, to say the least, for
We got our money's worth.
30 years or so.
Yes, you
So
did.
I think,
I say they
I
deserve
think
it.
it makes sense to, move forward with quality, office, and you'll get a lot of use out of it.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Major.
Yeah, I think, I think that the space is changing, and I think we need to make it work also so that you can serve the customers in the best way possible. And I don't, as you've remodeled, I think that may have changed from what it was before with the change in the room as well. I don't know that everything would
It
work.
needed
but
to change.
Yeah, it
was
did.
bad.
Well, I'd like to see that done. I'd also like to see if there's additional funds at this time to replace any of the electronics that you need to upgrade computers, upgrade.
I would prefer we look at that as a
CapEx.
capital improvement going forward.
But I'm just saying that I think those are things that need to be
But I hear ya.
ongoing, so that we're not behind the 8 ball on all of this,
Right.
that we're moving forward with the rest of the country.
Well, I'd be
being held
more than
by-
happy to
Yes.
have a discussion with the finance director and our technical support specialist in terms of where we are for sinking fund, replacement fund for
Great.
the equipment there, and I hear the commission's thoughts on that. The other thing, and I actually meant to bring this up before I talked about spending money on office furniture, there was some discussion at the last meeting, and thank you, Mayor Strobel, for bringing this to everyone's attention, regarding the Park and Rec tax money. And I believe, hopefully you received the email that was sent out.
Yes, we did.
That was simply a misunderstanding. There was never any intent or direction to take funds from the Park and Rec tax. That money is still in there. It was simply a misunderstanding in terms of where those monies are supposed to be coming from, and I'm told that that has been completely rectified. So every dime and penny of that money remains in that fund, and as I have said before, we will not take any recommendation to spend that money before it has been considered by the Parks Commission.
Steve, I got a question as far as that Parks and Rec, I think I looked at it and it was 77 or 78 the last time it was visited.
Correct.
Is that part of an ongoing thing that the city takes a look at, are all these different fees that, and do you at some point, either as a city council, decide on it, bringing forward a additional?
Well, let me take a stab at that. The issue with that one is it's technically not a tax. I mean, it's technically not a fee. It is a tax. And so it is subject to state law, Prop 218.
Okay.
Those types of taxes cannot be, arbitrarily raised by the council without a vote of the people. So in order to do that, I think you'd be looking at, some type of a ballot measure in order to be able to increase that tax, much like if you were trying to increase a sales tax, maybe not exactly the same, but.
Carla?
And I'll just add that I also checked with the city manager to make sure that the 20,000 plus could be used in the creation of a master plan, and his answer was that it could.
Yeah.
And
That's what
that's
we
what this
thought.
commission had, that's what I understood this commission, the preference of the commission was to use it for a master plan.
Okay.
So yes, you can, and the money's back.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla.
So we will be looking at that as we start moving into the budget cycle, which, believe it or not, is going to be starting, like tomorrow, it seems, because July will be upon us before we know. So, the next few months, we'll start to get into that a little bit more and start looking at the budget and start looking at our capital needs for the coming fiscal year.
Okay, so we are in recreation and staff reports now? Is, Sophocles, you want to give us an update on
I'll
your
give you an
February
update.
program?
Sure. So what's coming up in February is next Friday, Valentine's Day, for those of you who are keeping track, February 14th. We'll be showing another classic, Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Ooh.
So the attendance at these classic movie showings has been fairly weak. I think they had 10 at the last showing. And this might be even more challenging since it's on Valentine's Day, but it might be a cheap date to come over to the rec department and watch an old classic there. So this is, again, sponsored and put on by the Ojai Film Society and the Ojai Youth Foundation.
And what time is it at?
7 p.m.
In the multipurpose room?
Multipurpose room.
Okay.
Saturday. Is that Saturday? That's a Saturday. Yeah.
See,
Or Friday. Excuse me. Friday.
See,
night.
from we're just going to talk about it, but from a marketing standpoint, the idea would be for Valentine parents to drop their kids off for a hot dog and movie
Right.
while they go have a nice Valentine dinner.
No, that's a good sell.
And so instead of showing breakfast or something at Tiffany's,
Puss in Boots
maybe we're showing the Smurfs in Hawaii or something, but,
Yes. Well, if that was our program, which I'm about to get to, if that was our specific program, but it's really the film societies and the youth foundation. This is their choice of movies. This is what they wanted to present, these old classic movies. With that said, and to follow up on what you just said, we're going to show our own on Saturday, March 22nd. We're going to be showing the movie Big with Tom Hanks. And it's a family movie night. But what we decided was, if parents wanted to come and drop their children off and just have them watch the movie so they could have a night out, they can do that. So,
age limit on that?
it's all ages. So it is.
For the drop-off, though.
Yeah,
what's
for the
that?
drop-off.
For the drop-off.
You're gonna have like infants and.
We did advertise it, yeah, we did advertise it as all ages, but we're hoping that
10 and
parents will be
above.
reasonable.
Maybe in the fine print, out of diapers.
Yeah, out of diapers, but we didn't go 5 or older, so we did say all ages, but we did
Yeah.
also advertise it as a family movie night, and so within reason, obviously, if someone comes with an infant and says, well, my husband and I want to go out to dinner, we're gonna tell them.
It's
well,
almost like
we're
two
not
different
set
programs
up-
running
we're not set up
simultaneously,
for
though.
that. Yeah.
I mean, one of them is a family movie night intended for
It is
families, and the
nice, yeah.
other, if you're gonna do the drop-off, is a kind of, they're running at the same time, but.
Yes.
You know, when you really think of a date night, and you think of, you hiring a babysitter, and you're
What's your
paying them,
date
what,
night?
$10, $15? What are you paying a babysitter
Oh, you're-
nowadays? $10 an hour? $8? Gotta be greater than
I'd
5.
say,
Yeah.
My kids are too old.
And,
we don't have
and
babysitters.
you're offering a date night where you're gonna take their children for 3 hours for $5.
Well,
know what?
here are the prices, Randy.
10 would
It's
be
it's
good.
$3 per person and $10 per family. So again, we're hoping that the parents will stay, that they will also join their children
Wait, how
in
much?
watching this event. and-
$3 per
or
person or
watching this-
$10 per family. I
Yes.
think I love the family movie night, but I think that we're talking two different things here. That's what I really come away with on this, is because if you're gonna have kids dropped off and do a date night, which I think is a great idea, and I think
You want other people.
gymnastics has done it and done darn well at it, but it's a totally different structure.
It is,
Kids
but
with no
we,
parents
we're
watching.
not, if a parent, we were figuring a parent comes and they've got a 10-year-old, and we didn't want to feel like we had to insist, like, well, you
no,
can't leave, kind of thing, so we're going to let that child come, the 10-year-old, 11-year-old come and watch the movie.
I like family movie night. I think
Yeah.
it's great. I think we should keep doing it. But I think what I'm hearing in some ways is that we also
Do different
maybe
things,
should
right?
add another activity, which is a date night.
Which is, yes, what Randy's talking about is
Yeah.
a date night. Yeah, sure. So we're going to run one every Saturday. Sorry, I think it's, not every Saturday, pardon me. One per month.
One a
So
month
it's in the activity
for family-
guide.
for- right, for family
For
movie
a
night.
family movie night,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but I think in long, what we're
Right.
getting at is that long-term, it would be lovely, like before the next brochure comes out, or if we could add it before then.
Right, to plan
Trying
something
out
like that.
a date night.
Yeah, call it a date night.
Call it a
Put
date
in
night.
there.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and we've
Right away.
actually talked about
Yeah, we
that
talked
as a
about that a
staff.
while ago.
And I think
We've
you've,
talked to here about that, we've talked about it
and you've done it
internally.
for other events. Like I know for Toba's
Yeah.
event, you partnered with them and put on a.
We did, they were having an auction at the women's club,
Mm-hmm.
and then we said, okay, we'll provide childcare.
It was great.
And,
Yeah, because more people were able to come than would have been able to come. and-
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
it worked out great, yeah, absolutely.
And again, the goal is getting kids into our community center.
Yep,
That's what we want.
that is the goal.
Okay.
So, and then on to other sports-related, AYS, we, as you may or may not know, it is in the activity guide. We are partnering with AYSO for our five-a-side program. So we're currently accepting applications there, and they're accepting applications on their website. So we will have one unified five-a-side soccer league.
That's great.
So I had to ask this question, and maybe the rest of you are more up to speed than me, but I kind of had to ask, what's the difference between spring soccer and fall soccer? Because we do a fall soccer program, but,
Of sorts.
Of sorts.
We have Pee Wee soccer run by the Fusion Soccer League that's in Ventura. They run our Pee Wee soccer program, our youth soccer clinics, which for the 6 to 9-year-olds. And they will continue to run those classes. And they will continue to run we have 2 camps in the summer that they run, and so they'll continue to do those as well. We just,
okay, but in the fall, I think we are the only soccer program, isn't that right?
well, we don't run an actual league in the fall. It's
Oh,
flag,
okay.
it's flag football.
Okay,
in
I
the
mixed
fall.
up then.
AYSO
Okay.
does.
AYSO has their own fall.
Okay, I've got it
soccer league.
backwards
We-
then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do flag football now.
Okay.
What are we
Again.
gaining with AYSO? Just
the benefit? I had
Oh, sure, the benefit is their captive audience in numbers. they have a fall program, and I don't know what their exact numbers are, but
What-
they
what are
have
we
a
giving
fall.
them?
It's very, it's,
Oh,
Partnership is a spring program.
what do you
Yes.
mean, partnership?
You just said that we're partnering with
Them
AYSO.
for the five-a-side program in the spring.
Right. What's the benefit?
Well,
That's
the
what
benefit,
Robert and I
the
are asking.
benefit are having one unified program. We ran our own, they want to run a five-a-side soccer league, so we said, let's get together, combine our two leagues.
I think
So
if-
the benefit is
We're not
probably,
competing with them.
We're not competing with
Not
them,
really.
and, quite frankly, there'll be a financial benefit as well.
I think that you're
On
going
our
to have,
side.
you're going to have more people
On,
for
well,
partnering with AYSO. I
They're
think.
also primarily handling the registrations, too.
they are. We're accepting registrations, but they're processing all the registrations. But if you want to know, all there's quite a bit of details on it. We're splitting everything. It is truly a 50-50 partnership. We're splitting everything on costs, whether it's uniforms, awards, things like that, of that nature. And on the other side, all collected fees will be split as well.
Okay, one more question. Did you guys write out a budget? And you have a written
Yes.
agreement? All this is binding and?
We have a
it's,
written agreement with,
It's formal? You know what
Yes.
you're getting, they know what they're getting? Are they
Yes.
getting the use
Yes.
of the fields for free? What's the?
well, yes, they're getting the use of the fields. If they need indoor space for meetings, they can have indoor space for meetings.
Yeah.
They
It's all
get
fine.
advertisement in our activity guide. But as Steve mentioned, they're processing all the registration. We will coordinate in the selection of teams. It'll be much like the
We have some sort
basketball
of
league.
involvement in it.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna be helping,
I mean,
putting the
it's,
teams
it's not that
together.
we
Just
just,
up to basketball leagues, that's not a good example. But,
It's a perfect example, Randy. We will have a draft, just like we do in the basketball league. and-
I just want to make sure we're not giving up too much of a program that we're going to eventually lose.
No, administratively, we are gonna be completely in the process, and I think it was a smart decision to not, again, have two separate leagues in the valley.
Duplicating services.
Where, yeah, it was much better for us to get together. We will share on a lot of the administrative decisions. As I said, whether it's picking teams.
Is this a
or-
one-year type thing to see how it
Um,
goes, or
It's
Well, at
year to
this
year.
point,
year to year?
it's a-
Right.
it'll
So
be
if
a-
well, AYSO has a board.
I was just going to say, to be clear, AYSO has a board. They're a completely volunteer organization.
Right.
They're very well, they're well organized.
Yeah, they
And
are.
I think their goals, from the people that I've spoken to, is really just to promote more soccer. They want the kids to have yet another opportunity to play so that they're getting, they're improving their skill levels and more places to, just play. So, and I think it's great.
And AYSO also has a fall program.
They have a very
Yes.
strong, they have a very strong, that's their big program. That's where
I just
they,
wanted to hear that.
yeah.
Yes.
So that might help feed into the spring, too.
Oh, it will.
That
They have a
should be
huge mailing
benefit
list that
for
they're
us.
gonna mail to for this,
Right.
which I've
That can
gotten
give some
mail.
kids that can't normally play because they're in another sport right now with soccer, they could probably play during that fall, or no, we're not going to have the fall.
We're not gonna have, we'll do flag football again in the fall.
The-
But they could choose spring or fall, right?
Right, and I think that the issue,
we had more-
the issue with spring anyway is a lot of kids who aren't year-round soccer players, and so they're playing other sports. And so it's a smaller pool of kids that you're drawing from for spring.
Spring versus
For
fall.
spring soccer versus fall soccer. Fall soccer,
Okay.
so, because to put it, like, we're making these decisions in our household right now. Are we playing volleyball or are we playing soccer? Because for my daughter, she could play soccer, or she could play volleyball. And so we haven't made our decision yet because they run at the same time.
Okay.
So there's just a lot of other options.
Yeah, we're excited about the opportunity in the partnership, and we think, again, overall, it will be to the benefit of everyone to have one program.
Great. Okay.
And then finally, we are offering 2 camps during the February school break. As you know, they have that whole week off for President's Week. I'm not sure what that means, but they get that week. And so we'll be offering a science camp and a pottery camp during those breaks. That's all I have on the February activities. You guys have any questions about anything?
I just want to compliment everybody on getting the AYSO partnership together, and I think it's going to be great. So thank you for working it out.
Should be a win-win.
Yep.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'll wait till the end of, I'll wait
Yeah,
till,
that-
I'll wait
I'm
till
not sure.
it's all said and done and
Okay.
see
I
the
wanna see
finances on it.
finances.
That's all.
The proof will be in the, I
Right.
mean, part of it will be in the
Exactly, the
finances.
finances.
What did we do last year and
Right.
what are we going to do
Not
this
need
year?
to bring in all
It'll
those
be-
kids over there. They used to be at the schools. on
And,
the-
and again, there's more weight than just the money. Again, it's
Of
that
course.
exposure
Yeah.
to their, to
Exactly.
their list. And I mean, I know there's a lot of tangibles, so.
It's very mutually beneficial, so I'm very happy that you were able to make it happen.
Great. Yeah,
Thank you.
We are too. Thanks. Okay, that's all. I
Ojai
have.
Day, 2013 Ojai Day.
Just want to give an update, really, that's the only item here under this, is I want to give some updated numbers on Ojai Day. We do not believe that there are any other expenses that have yet to be accounted for.
I have some, just kidding. Just kidding.
So I'll give you some numbers here, and then I'll tell you what it all means. So in total, we spent about $49,000, $49,043.97 on the event. And as of today, we have revenue in of $40,674.66. And we have one outstanding revenue item, which we expect to get fairly soon, and that should give us about another $1,000 in revenue. So as it stands right now today, without the anticipated additional revenue, we're in the red by $8,369, which is still in excess of or better than our target. Our target was to lose no more than $10,000 on the event. With the additional revenue, you can shave another $1,000 off that. We think we'll probably end up losing
think that's
about
outstanding.
$7,750. And as we had talked about a couple of meetings ago, a lot of that loss came in the Friday night concert that we were trying to do. So if you take that out, it probably reduces that deficit in half. So we have, as we said, we're going to try to we want to get a handle on this, and then hopefully every year try to close that gap further and further. We do have a goal of eventually trying to get this to be self-sustaining. Whether or not we can reach that, I don't know, but we're going to keep trying to push it that way. So, we said our goal was to lose no more than 10. Remember, it lost more than $20,000 the previous year. I think we'll try to get that down to 5,000 for the coming fiscal year. So, still very good news there.
Great news.
And I don't anticipate any of those numbers to change significantly, but I'll give an update at the next meeting too, once we've got all the revenue in.
So, Steve, is Amber going to run the Ojai Day for 2014?
As of right now, that's the plan. We're not anticipating any changes in personnel right now. So that's.
I was talking to a past president of the Chamber of Commerce yesterday, and he said that they were, when he was president, that they were an active member of Ojai Day, and that they really stressed to their membership to be a participant. So I don't know if the president now is the person who's impeding this joint venture, but when I hear that it was in fact a joint day with all the businesses in town, that maybe we need to, that's why I was asking if Amber was going to be running it again this year. Maybe Amber needs to get a committee going and we start pushing something in preparation for Ojai Day with the chamber, and again, instead of waiting till June or July, but actually starting now and figuring out how to get that part of Ojai a bigger part of Ojai Day.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more after the meeting, and
Okay.
maybe we can figure out a way that we can follow up.
Okay. All right. Capital improvement plans and updates.
Wanted to get some feedback on where we are. As you know, we're not doing really master planning at this point, although I think that is something that we should keep on the on the possible, you know, on the radar screen, possibly as soon as next fiscal year. We'll have those conversations coming up pretty soon, as I alluded to. But we have a couple of updated plans here. For those who are on the Facility Planning Committee, these will look somewhat familiar to you. We took and I think I'm going to start with Libby, just because I think that will probably have less discussion than Sarzati. So
It's hard to read.
the existing Libby Plan, master plan that we actually have on the books, it was, you know, done in the early 90s, and it anticipated the large community pool and a lot of buildings, a lot of things that just haven't happened. So really what this is really just an update to where we are today and how the park looks today for the master plan. And there really has not been any further work that's been done on that. But, you know, rather than continuing to point to a plan from 1993 that talks about a large extensive community pool complex and all that.
Should leave that. Just kidding. I like
It's, this at least is a little more based on reality. So I would say this is really just an update, but if you have any questions or comments on that.
Will you, I have a very hard time reading my key.
Okay, well, let's get you some better,
So is there anything, are there any significant changes other than removal of things that have not been built?
no,
So this is just to be a reflection of the current state?
exactly.
Okay, got it.
Right,
Good, I
right.
don't need the key. Okay.
And then, and I apologize for, these are are quite difficult to read. On were there any other questions on Libby before we leave that?
Well,
It's really a
just,
starting
what are the two things that say proposed facilities? What, is that something you're thinking about, or is that just something that's on there?
Oh, so the proposed facilities, if I will read this, the proposed facilities should sound very familiar to the commission. It's the new playground and the playground shade structure. And that's the A, which you'll see right up there in the corner, just, you know, to the right of the post office, just east of the post office there. And then the other project that's listed here, the B project, is the restroom restoration. And
Which is
in a weird spot.
not actually in the
I
right spot.
Yeah, it's not the
don't,
right spot.
yeah, I
It actually
don't.
should be like 13.
Look in the middle of the.
Maybe.
13 is the multipurpose room. It's 3. So if you look at.
I gotcha.
It's a little
Okay.
tough, definitely hard to read, but existing facilities, 3 is the restroom.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I don't see the,
It's actually right.
oh, I see the B on there.
Yeah, it's
That
up
must
by
be
the
in the wrong
playground.
spot.
Yeah,
Because that,
3 makes sense, but B is.
well, 3 is actually on the other side of the trail.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
right. I'll clarify that
Yeah,
with
because 3 is kind of in
Mr.
the
Grant.
wrong spot, but,
Maybe it's 4.
But.
no, I think,
Well, he drew a line over to it. You kind of recognize it for it.
We'll just need a better copy. It's just.
So is it right,
Sure.
is it to the right of 13 with the line
Yes.
drawn to 3?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay, and that makes sense, because it is adjacent to that walkway.
yes.
Okay.
Right,
So
no,
if-
we haven't had any discussions about
so the proposal is
relocating
for
or
the
moving
renovations
those.
to that restroom.
That's
And
correct.
the renovation to
Oh,
the
yeah.
playground and the shade structure.
That's
And we
right.
talked
So
about
it still
renovations
reflects
to
the, what's that?
Oh, we also talked about renovations to the kitchen in the, was that?
You're
That's
in
part of
the,
Libby.
yes, and actually,
Yeah, the new sink-
Upgrade
the new
it, yeah.
sinks that went in.
To make it for health and safety.
And that happened already.
Okay.
I believe that's in the works. I don't know if it's
No?
been,
I don't think it's done.
I couldn't tell you, I'm sorry.
I thought we had
I
I
thought
thought we had a
Greg-
report on it, that it
Yeah, I
was
thought
done.
Greg said that it had been completed.
Well, then you have a better memory than I do.
Yeah, I didn't.
thought-
Either that or the sinks were being purchased,
Something.
something of that nature.
Yeah, I
Something's
know it
happening with
was,
the sinks.
I know it was given the green light.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's what I
it's
remember.
it's either in the works
Well,
or
you need it for
moving
Ojai
up the
Day.
queue.
Right, you need it for OID.
You
And
need
other
it.
events too, Lavender
Lavender Day,
Festival and
right.
whatnot, right? It's
Tennis
definitely
tournament,
helpful, so.
Okay, so this map is now updated with the changes that we just
Correct.
saw with B.
Correct.
To reflect the current state and the 2 proposed.
That's right.
All right.
The Sarzati Park,
Steve, before we move to that.
yes, ma'am.
On the Libby Park Master Plan, near the number 9, we have the Ojai Valley Museum still on this map. We should take that off.
Good point,
Now-
thank
Now,
you.
what is there is a historic landmark. It's the old fire station.
Right.
Okay,
Isn't that fire station privately owned?
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Isn't the fire station privately owned?
a gallery now.
It's a pottery with a residence behind it, I'm pretty sure.
It's gutted right now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for
But
that
at
one.
one point, it was the the fire station for the city, and the building is historic, even though it is privately owned.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So, on to Sarzati. And it seems like we're kind of trying to do master planning light here. But I think what I'd like to ask the commission to maybe focus on a little bit tonight is, one of the things that we've got high on the list for next fiscal year in the capital improvement plan, of course, none of that has actually been approved yet, it's just on the plan, is to build an outdoor basketball court. And of course, no final decisions have been made on this, but we've been talking about it and trying to figure a good location. And there's a lot of different opinions out there, so what I was like to ask the commission to focus on and maybe give us a little bit of feedback tonight, primarily on a location for an outdoor basketball court so that we can start really planning on where we could put that. A couple thoughts before we get into this. Just pulling back maybe to the 35,000-foot level. It's been surprising to me during my tenure here that the city does not have any outdoor basketball courts. It seems like a real deficit to me, and of course, I'm a little biased there because I like playing basketball and I like outdoor basketball courts. But it seems like something that we've been really lacking. So then the question kind of becomes, where do you best put that? And I think you always want to keep in mind, where are kind of the established recreation facilities? Where would they expect to see these things? And I think you also, at least for the recreation department's operations, we'd like to see it in Sarzati Park, just because, we run other activities there. We run the basketball leagues there. Generally, most of that stuff gets done inside the gym, but it would provide another alternative playing or practicing surface more than anything. And then just for that, just for general use for people to do pickup games or whatnot. So, and then I think it also is helpful to have it at a location where there's parking and where there's bathrooms and where there's already established activity. For example, trying to squeeze something like this down at Rotary Park probably wouldn't work. There's no restroom. So, but again, no decisions have been made, and I'm not trying to pigeonhole this in any way, shape, or form. But so we've been kind of bouncing around some potential locations for an outdoor court. So on this diagram here, if you see where the soccer field layout is, and then the
Arc for the ball
slashed
diamond?
line there, C, that was the one location that we were considering for the outdoor basketball court. It could work there, but it's, from our perspective, it's a bit of a squeeze with the trees there and the soccer and the other activity, but we could probably make it work. Another alternate, which is the one that I have labeled on the map here, is basically right out in front of the offices, in that grassy area between the offices and the sidewalk. There's enough space there to avoid the trees and the drip lines, to not run into the parking lot. And just for planning purposes, we've been looking at a high school regulation size court. One downside of that location is it's fairly close to the street.
Would you fence?
We would probably want to do some type of
Chain link fence.
hedging or fencing just to prevent a ball
Yeah.
from rolling out into the street.
That would
It
be
could
my only
could be
concern
something.
there.
Is the fence,
i-
yeah.
Is we just go ahead and have something where the kids aren't gonna run off and run right out into the street.
Right. But again, that's not, those are not the only potential places that we could fit this court. The other place that has been talked about, or the other potential location that has been talked about for a number of years would be, somewhere in this open area, either behind the multi-purpose room or the gym.
Which,
Pool should go.
well, which is volleyball. The
Exactly.
volleyball
No,
program
I
runs there
totally
right
agree
now.
with that. That's, volleyball, but also I think that's eventually something that we could probably place a community pool back there.
That's what I think. I think we need a master plan.
I agree. It's,
But then,
which we've been saying for a very long time, so.
Well, here's my take, that
I think it's good.
I think aesthetically, putting that slab of concrete in front of a rec center is not a good idea.
It's not attractive.
Just aesthetically.
I agree.
And putting it over in the original slash line, again, is obviously too close to the soccer.
We think so.
And trees, there's a tree
There's a
right
large
there.
tree there.
that's
All the
There's a
shade
big
on the
one,
side.
yeah. The
And
drip
then the-
line, I
and
think,
it is-
comes over.
And it really is really close to the soccer fields.
And to me, the ideal location would be back in the recreational area where you have the CrossFit, you've got the play area, you've got the picnic area.
But that is used for a number of sports.
Well, I know that, but I'm just saying, but if, I'm just talking about
Yeah, no, I hear you.
my take on it. That's the ideal location, however you fit it in there. And then the other thing, which probably has a lot of monetary restraints, would be actually putting it in the parking lot and moving the parking lot in front of the rec center.
Like that
would be-
original
you know
plan,
what?
that was
That's
in the original plan.
that we had-
I didn't see the original plan, but that was my take on it.
Yep, and that was, they were, yeah.
I feel like we need a master plan. I don't think that putting something that people will use in front of the rec center is bad. I mean, the sight line it's concrete, so that doesn't bother me, that you
I don't love it there aesthetically.
But
The-
I want to save the
Don't turn
back
me
front
on.
pool.
Pardon?
The community wants a pool.
The other issue, just to kind of throw everything out there that we've talked about, if you locate it out in front of the office, I would say it's a positive because it can be viewed from the street, and then that can also be considered a negative, that it can be viewed from the street, particularly if you live across the street from that. So,
Well,
You know where you live.
different perspectives.
Well, I do agree, and you've talked about the master plan. I mean, we've had this discussion, of course, several times at the rec department, and what kind of qualifications do we have realistically with what's the best location? And I do think it does make a strong argument for a park design person, consultant, to come in and say, hey, these are all the things that we want.
Make it work
What's
in
the
that
best,
space.
yeah, where's the best place to put it? Do we have to take out a tree? I'm sure, a tree that's allowable to take out. I'm just thinking, someone with that's what they do for a living?
Exactly.
Is who we should rely on to make some of those decisions for us.
Well, and another thing too, right at the end of the gymnasium, I know it's a slope there and everything, but a retaining wall can go right up against there.
That's a good
And it
point.
could be right there on the end.
Where's that, I'm sorry.
Right here on number 5.
Right.
We need
That's
to,
It would
Yeah.
just be
we
right
need to
here
hire
and go
someone
this
that
way.
does this.
Well, and as part of that too, I think is engaging the public appropriately
Exactly.
as we plop things on a map. I don't want it
I
to
mean,
seem
there's
like
no
we're
drip
making
lines,
decisions
there's-
per se.
There's a couple poles out there, there's electrical that's already ready to
Right.
that location.
Right.
The reality of this is, if you were to take an imaginary line from the soccer field edge, and take it to Park, and take it straight up to, I think that's the baseball storage, that whole area heading towards Aliso is something you're not gonna touch. But in a master plan, everything north, heading up towards Park Road as it turns around, and the parking lot, and all the picnic areas, and the restroom, that whole area is not used well. It's been a hodgepodge of a little here, and a little there, and a little here. And even the reality of the recreation facility the master plan would probably say you need a whole new building.
Yes.
Bring the building closer to the street,
Yes.
enlarge the gymnasium, put your pool in, put your outdoor sports in, put your child's play area in, and then figure out where you can allocate some picnic tables, because you've got a ton of picnic area all along that trail that runs adjacent.
Alley.
Yeah, whatever it is, on the backside of the facility for picnic areas.
It's not functional.
So, yeah, there's totally
Okay.
no form and function to this. And to me, dropping a slab of concrete in the middle of it, as much as I would like the basketball court, I
Right.
just,
Well, that's where the
I
whole
agree.
park design comes in.
I
and-
totally agree.
And getting a professional to come in and
We need that.
help us through it, because, no offense to the playground, but, take that, I mean,
Yeah.
probably get more use out of a outdoor basketball court where the playground is
Well,
than we
and
might
why-
the
and why
playground, and
wouldn't-
put the playground somewhere else. I
Front,
don't know.
Where we've talked
Front.
about before, because you kind of want to have eyes on a playground.
And why do we dedicate so much, the storage is taking up
But I guess really what it
prime
is
space back there.
I think what we're hearing is we're not ready to give you any feedback, because we think we need to have a better, bigger
Professional.
plan before we can even comment.
Well, you have actually given very valuable feedback.
Can we put to bid for a consultant?
well, you could do an
With our
RFP.
20,000?
We could certainly talk about that as we get into the budget for next year.
I feel like
and
that's the best thing. It'd
Yeah.
be,
We're-
I don't
we're
want to
waiting
spend
on
money
it.
to,
Yeah.
I mean, I want this really,
Okay.
but for the community, but I think we should have a plan first and then
Okay.
go from
Well, we
there.
have that money.
No, yeah.
Well, that's a drop in the bucket. You're probably talking
Yeah.
100,000 plus to do a master plan.
I think
for
though
this
that,
facility.
But we start in small, little chunks.
Increments, yeah.
Yeah, and first would be, okay, this is what we have right now, this park. Tell us what we need, tell us where things could go. I don't think that would exceed.
But that is
That
also
defeats
how
the
we
purpose
ended
of the
up
master
with
plan.
a Sarzodi plan and a Libby plan.
We need a master plan for the community with community input, what they would, what they want there.
That will then
What
address
works
each
best
part.
for the community.
Well, that's the whole
Before we
idea
start-
behind the keyword is master.
Master, yeah.
Is that it's a plan that you can develop in stages, that you can go from A to B to C to D. And again, you could do a mini based on my suggestion would be cutting that space in half and taking everything from this point up. Because again, you're not going to change the athletic fields, you're not going to change the ball diamonds.
Right.
Those are a given.
Or the huge trees.
I wouldn't think so, right?
So there's just certain things, so everything north of that line is something that you might be able to put together into a mini master plan.
Exactly.
Still,
But again, just my experience as a design build landscape company, you're talking to probably a minimum $100,000. So we'd have to do some fundraising, we'd have to do some matching funds with the city. There's gonna have to be some money set aside for this. It's not a small task, but it needs to be done.
Okay, well, we have some
And
work.
I have a comment. You were mentioning the park, north of the athletic fields? And I love to dream. What I would like is someone to come in and mentally just totally take out everything and put it back together with the elements that you think are most important for our community. Outdoor basketball, a new gymnasium. And it seems to me that, and you just mentioned this, it could be drawn up, a master plan could be drawn up so that future elements are indicated on the master plan.
and it should be based off the budget.
Which is
that we just
exactly
set.
what we had with Libby. The plan that we had for Libby, it had exactly that. That was the plan for Libby that they'd made that included the pool and all these other buildings. And that's what we've just taken off of this plan because it's so old. And I think it's a great idea, but I still would really like for us to not have just a Sarzodi plan and a Libby plan. I think it's really important to have a full, big look at our system and
I
what
think
we,
you will.
and what we, well, I don't know that we will if we address it park by park, because that's what we have done historically, and we don't have a master plan, and we have an element that hasn't been updated since, I can't remember when, but it's
The park.
20 years or something, I mean, some amazing amount of time, because because I think to get at what we need in each of these parks, we have to understand who we're serving, what we're doing well, where our gaps are, and what we need to understand what we need to have there. And of course, we could, as a group, tell you what we think, but I really think that to do the right job and to really do this well, we need to have more public involvement.
Oh, no, I
And so-
totally agree, but I still say that you're gonna have to look at each one of them individually.
You will, but
And then mingle it together, but that's
But
why.
do you want to know what you need before you look at any of them individually? Or do you want to start individually looking at them, assuming you know what you need?
Well,
That's just-
Well, I think it's two-pronged. One, I believe that you should have a master plan for all of the city facilities. I don't disagree with that. But the reality of that, that's gonna take how long and how many years to develop? And in the interim, you've gotta have a short-term plan and goal to specifically look at each facility and develop that micro or mini master plan for each of those that you can do in conjunction with the big picture.
But that comes from having a master
Which
plan.
we have always done.
But because if you wait, we're gonna end up at the same place we are with that Libby master plan that was done in 19 what?
Well, I think,
80-something?
I think
That
I
is
need-
still waiting to be done?
right, but I think you need to clarify the difference between having a master plan for your whole system and not facilities. You guys are specifically talking facilities, and I want to look at parks and recreation, not just parks and not just facilities, but recreation and how we do our business. Because the coming together of the two is what should determine our parks and our facilities, because they should be based on who we serve and how we serve them. And I think there's a gap for us there that would be filled in if we did a real master plan that would identify who we're serving, how we're serving them, where we aren't serving them, who do we need to serve. And I think that historically we've done individual plans based on our assumptions of who we serve and how we serve them. But I don't think we've been to the public in a really long time to really well vet and get back the information that they can give us about what we're doing and how we're doing it and what they'd like to see us do. I don't know when we've done that.
Well, we did our survey last year.
We
I
did a
don't know if it
limited
touched
survey.
Yeah, I don't know if it touched on everything that you're talking about.
It had it in there, but it didn't do the work of going out and holding public meetings and then really vetting it through those people. We got information out of that, but we didn't go out and then take that information and develop it into the information we need to create the plan.
And we could incorporate that into our open house as well to invite people.
Well, I
to
think,
come.
but
And
this
then
is
have
where,
one of our
this is where you
meetings
have a
that we add
professional
that.
that does landscape design and you have a professional that does buildings. There are professionals that are planners that really know how to put together a plan that is going to verify and get information that you can count on as being real. That's what they do as professionals. They go out and they plan and they engage the public appropriately and gather information and help you understand all of that, the way that someone can build you a set of plans for a building.
architect, yeah.
And that's the part that I don't see us having engaged. And I think that it should be part of the element and part of the master plan, because services are part of what we do too, not just facilities, and they do interface. And I don't know where we're getting enough information or have had the professional help to make sure that we are understanding all of that big picture.
Well, like I said, I think we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of the process and funding and making sure that something gets done
Yep.
before we're all buried.
Yes. Because yes, it's been,
And I'd like some clarification. I mentally took away the commission's desire to update the master plan for Sarasota Park. So that's what I've been talking to the city manager about. But what I'm hearing now is what we really need is a citywide update for a parks master plan.
Also the recreation element.
which would be,
I'm
yes.
getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we.
And so maybe where we need to start is an update to the recreation element. Do we need to look at the element prior to trying to create a master? And part of that master plan, or, what do we want to do with parks? The city has little pockets of property throughout the city. Do we want to maybe sell some of those small parks to generate funds to do,
Enhancements at our large facilities.
yeah?
We're coming into a
You have to look at
budget.
that.
But this is another question that you'd address when you go through this process, as part of a cohesive process, not picking and choosing little bits, which I know we do because we have to, but I don't think it's the healthiest way to move forward. You asked me that question, I don't know. I don't have enough information, and
Well,
I
is it-
don't understand the system well enough.
But also, isn't that your background? Isn't that what you did up in?
My background is geography, but I did work for Parks and Recreation in Portland in their planning and development unit.
Yeah, and we don't even have that, we don't have anyone with those administrative duties
Right.
in this small environment. That's where you run into small, large, and.
I understand.
And again, I'm 100% behind what you're saying. I'm just looking at, again, short-term, long-term, and how you can work those two together, and move forward, and give the citizens what they would like today, as well as plan for the future needs of our citizens.
Tomorrow. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so maybe the question that I'd like answered is, which staff members would be involved in updating the recreation element? And is it two completely separate things, or would it include updating a parks master plan?
I think that one process could definitely do both things.
So I think if we ask staff to take a look at it, if we were going to go about this in a logical, linear way, which is my favorite way of thinking, then where do we need to start? If our objective is to create an overview of recreation activities citywide, it seems to me that where we would start is the recreation element. But let's have, perhaps members of staff can look at that and.
We had a committee at one point that looked at this. Were you?
We started and never continued.
2 years ago.
But we had some good meetings, and we looked at the element, and we basically looked at all the planning documents, and we're looking at that. And it was just a start. We reviewed everything and looked through it and what was relevant. But I don't think anyone who was here with us then is still here, so.
Right.
Okay. So, but what I'm
That is
suggesting is you first relate it to the staff, so that the staff can take an overview, create a report, submit to the city council, see where the city council puts it as it's on its list of priorities.
Okay.
And we have some overwhelming priorities, but when you think of, our financial or economic stability, that's probably number one, and we're doing good. Streets and roads, capital improvements is an extremely high priority, and that's going to be a year after year after year project. Even though we're setting aside $500,000 a year, that's the cost of improvements, repair, maintenance of streets and highways are just astronomical. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't just not put an update for the housing element, update for the recreation element on the scope.
Right. Understand what it's going to take so that we know what we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let the council decide on its list of priorities. If the council moves it up, then that's good. But if it's not even on the horizon, if we're not even thinking about it, then I can guarantee you zero will be done.
Right.
And that's why I think we need to have a secondary deal to where we start looking at individual. Because if we can't get funding or whatever, because it isn't up at the top, we have to look at the smaller picture,
But I
what
still
we
think
can
we need
do.
to
But it's like you were saying, dream big. This is the big dream, and there
Yeah.
are some pieces that we could pull off, but I feel like the history of recreation, and I think I've been on this commission for 10 or 11 years now, so much of what happens in our parks and recreation is determined by external forces of new parks coming to us, of new facilities, and we're generating projects not based on our understanding of what we need, but what hits us and what comes at us and in a reactionary way. And I think it would be a lovely place to be, and I understand it's a big dream, to be in a place where we have really thought this through and have developed our vision for our parks and our recreation through a plan. And so when things are coming at us, we look at how it fits into where we want to be. Not, oh my goodness, we are going to do this. And there have been some wonderful things that have come of it, and I'm very thankful that the organizations have done what they've done. But as a city, I would like to see us, instead of just reacting to things, have a plan and be ready. And so that's where this comes from. And I understand that it's a big idea, but I think it would be lovely to be able to flesh it out enough to get it on the list for priority so that we can talk about it.
I think a perfect example is the bike.
The bike
The
park.
BMX, I mean, if that was on our plan, they came to the meeting, we want a BMX, the community says we want BMX parks, it's in the master plan. You don't have to have a group of parents and kids, fighting to get that. It's in the plan, we're gonna make it happen.
Well, I think
Like
that
the
also,
pool.
but I think the only hindrance in all of this is the fact that there is more than one entity that provides recreational opportunities in this valley.
Right.
That's the downside to what we're trying to achieve with a master plan, is trying to get the consensus of all these other recreational providers all into the same room, all under the same umbrella.
And not have
all-
enough room for everybody.
I don't know that you're ever trying to get consensus. You're trying to understand. I mean, I
Well,
think.
eventually, you've got to come to a consensus so that
Well,
you can move forward.
Right.
And all I'm saying is there's some of these entities that are not under our jurisdiction. And that, to me, is the only thing, is that we're sitting here talking, that's the only thing that I see as a hindrance, is the fact that we don't manage the hiking trails. We don't, there are certain recreational opportunities that we do, and then there's some that we don't do.
Right, but we're dealing with what we do.
The Land
in the plan.
Conservancy, for instance,
We have to do it with the property.
they have their goals and they have their mission. So it's,
But I don't see where there's a conflict
Yeah, I don't
with what
either.
the
Do it.
land
and the
use.
recreational element, if you read it, you start reading the fact that it includes trails, bike trails, horse trails. It includes every recreational opportunity in this valley. And maybe at one time, the city might have been that body, but today's body isn't that. And because other organizations have taken those activities over for whatever the
they've
reasons in the
taken them
past.
over.
No, I mean, we still
Now,
have
when I
trails.
think,
Those are
when I
good.
think of a master park plan for a citywide, I said that backwards, a master plan citywide for parks, still didn't do it, but you get the idea. Mine mentally stop at the boundaries of the city. I do not
I think
go
for the physical
outside
plant,
the-
it stops at the city, but when we realize how many people we serve from outside of it with our programs, when we look at our program, we have to take into account who we're serving.
Well, you have to do that, but we can't plan anything that's not ours.
No, I absolutely agree. I'm just saying, for me, there's a differentiation between programming for that and physical, plant.
Well, if we can have collaboration, that would be wonderful. But as far as I'm concerned, my jurisdictional responsibility
Right.
stops at the city limits.
Right.
The city of Ojai cannot, nor should it even attempt to, create a valley-wide master plan. That is so totally beyond
no.
any scope.
I agree.
Okay.
So, initially thinking that we were talking about Sarasota, going from there to citywide, to looking at the housing element. It is a long road, but
Recreation element.
Well, to be
you
fair,
began somewhere.
I am one voice on a commission, so, and I was not at the last meeting. So I didn't hear that discussion.
I don't think we discussed this at the last meeting.
Okay. I thought the plan, I thought it came up around the money and the, okay, sorry.
No, the discussion came up because of comments I made. I had just attended the audit committee, and I had noticed that the park acquisition fund had a balance of $640-something.
Thank you for noticing that.
And so I asked where that money went, and I asked whether or not this commission had approved or supported the use of those funds. And I was told yes. And so the next night, I was liaison here at Parks and Rec, so
It came up.
I
yes.
presented it. And what I got were big eyes, total confusion, and I'm going, okay. And so as soon as I got home, I started emailing. And as it turns out, accounting-wise, it was an error, and it's been corrected.
What's a bigger?
So that's how the
Okay.
conversation came up.
Well-
And when we were talking about the 20,000 is when I heard, well, we wanted to use that money for a master plan.
Right.
So that's how it all came up. It
Absolutely,
wasn't
okay.
anything
And so
agendized.
to be clear, I'm dreaming big. I'd like it to be on the horizon, but I'm not stepping on the desire to have a plan for
I agree with this.
Sarasota.
Well, of course, we have, like Steve mentioned way at the beginning, I'm excited about the sport of basketball. I'd like to see a basketball court out there, an outdoor court, lit outdoor court, no
Yes.
less. But I also agree with Randy's point of view is aesthetically, are we right to just piecemeal it and plunk it down wherever we think it will fit or work? Are we the best people to decide that? I'd like to see the groundbreaking tomorrow. And for me, it's like, there's the court, great, I can go out and play on it. But for the overall benefit of everyone in the community, yeah, I like basketball, he likes basketball, but what else do we need out there? What else does
This
the
might be
community
some-
want?
This might be something to address at our open house. This is what we're thinking, maybe get some few people, where would you like to see it? You know, is it a big deal for you? Somebody might say, well, how come it's not a bocce ball or something else,
Right,
you know? So I think we have to look at that too.
I think looking, just after working on the skate park, it's the same kind of thing. We built a skate park where we have a lease that will end, but it was worth doing it and getting the use for, so many years. But maybe however long the master plan would take to get into effect, but weighing out, like, putting the basketball court in, knowing that we would, you know what I mean? We'd have to look at the budget, and does it make sense? You know what I mean? Is that
That's
the
the-
highest priority for the community? But,
That's the fear, is how long are we going to?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't
how
wanna
long
stop
are
making
we
a master
going
plan,
to
but I don't
wait,
wanna-
before we see some of those things that we, even in our own department, see as a necessity, as a need. That would, as Steve mentioned, again, would help us with people having extra practices out
Right.
there. And,
Yeah.
It's
to weigh
it's
the-
needed, because that gym space, as we talked about in the last Park and Rec Commission meeting, is a struggle for us.
And it's
But do we build another do we build an outdoor basketball court, or do we build another gymnasium?
And a
Altogether,
a
you
slab
know.
of concrete, and that compared to, it's probably a little-
Okay, so Carlin, do you have an idea of well, what are we,
can always
what are
come
we
up with
asking Steve?
ideas.
What are we asking Steve to do is to actually,
Let us go back and work on it at the staff level.
Okay,
And I
that
think, and let us digest. I think we've had some great thoughts and comments here tonight. And, I think you've kind of, I hate to put it this way, but, more or less kind of identified, there's a continuum there. On one side of the continuum, it's, we just do things and we don't think about it. And the other side of the continuum is, well, we plan things, but then we never do them. So,
Or it takes too long to.
somewhere in there, and
We
there
need
may
to
be
find-
some way that we can, maybe even some hybrid approach there, that it could be done, like I said, maybe, so let us talk about it, let us work on it.
You need a plan
And,
for the plan.
and again, I think the part of this it'll be right at the top of the list for those things to talk about for next fiscal year.
Yeah.
Because obviously, and if the commission's recommendation is master planning should be our top capital improvement, then we'll bring that forward to the council and see where it wants to go. I'm just throwing that out there.
I hear what you're saying.
And I have one more comment. And that is, it sounds to me that a priority right now is an outdoor lighted basketball court. That's what I emailed Rob about. With the chaos that exists on that, north of the athletic fields, with the chaos that already exists there, is putting in a basketball court going to add that much more chaos? I mean,
What's
a
the
master
chaos?
plan, I envision a master plan, all of that being taken out anyway. I mean, and for a basketball court, we're talking concrete and some lights.
Yep. As far as the chaos there, I think in some ways the chaos is positive, because the more people you have there using that facility, I think the better. So that part of the chaos, I think, is positive.
Well, I saw the advantage for that area, having a regulation basketball court in, is that children could skate. I mean, it's just not basketball. There's multiple uses for our hard surfaces that we lack on that facility.
True.
We just lack. So, we played foursquare, we played hopscotch. There's a number of things that you could do on a basketball court other than just play basketball. And you can also play volleyball, you can also play badminton.
Yeah.
And as far as the volleyball people, actually, I think a better location is the grass in the front of that facility, because it's not worn out and beaten down. And what's better than driving through your community on a hot summer night and seeing 10, 15 people out in the front of your recreation building playing volleyball?
Oh, more than
I
10,
like it
or
up-
15.
I like it up front.
Pardon?
More than 10 or 15. Have you ever seen that program go back there? How many nets do they have up? They fit in like 3 or 4 nets in that tiny
They
spot.
squeeze a lot in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree. It's-
Well, is it bigger out in front for them? Would it
No.
be? Yeah, oh, it is.
Well, you'd
I
run
don't,
into this.
it's not bigger.
You'd run into the same issues of the street and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
ball-
how
the
close
ball
can you
running.
get to the road? But yeah, we want that basketball court like anyone else, and, or like, we're chomping at the bit to make it happen, but I do want it to happen, be in the right place and the right fit, because if you put the court where, out back between the gym and the playground, you're gonna take away play area for something else. And yes, they
Anywhere,
could
yeah.
play a little volleyball, they could, and there are multiple uses for that basketball court. And maybe that is the right place for it, but we've all mentioned the master plan and having a professional come in and tell us, do we need a huge, how big does the master plan have to be? And I know you talked about beyond Sarasota, but Sarasota needs that specifically, as maybe Libby and the rest of it does. I don't know.
Agree.
I agree.
Okay, so, Steve, you'll get back to us on that?
Yes,
Okay.
we will.
All right. All right.
We done?
Carlin, you have the floor if you'd like to address us.
I don't really have anything further.
Okay,
Okay, then can I give a little report?
of course you
We had a
can.
meeting.
Yes.
We were working on, I met with Sophocles and Steve and, let's see, I don't remember her name. Carolyn Jones from Rec West, just to look at a preliminary of what they have to offer for playground equipment, because we're looking and talking about replacing, updating the Libby playground. And so this was a meeting with her to see what they have to offer. She's a rep for that company. And I think they have some amazing stuff, and there's a lot of opportunities to really, I think, create a wonderful playground there. It was very exciting. So that was nice. I think what I took away from the meeting, though, one of the things is that as this is running, I don't even know it's not parallel exactly, but we're doing this, part of what spurned the desire to replace this playground now, it needs it, but is also the shade structure.
Right.
That we need to circle back around and really get together with Rotary and do some planning, because as we look at the playground, we can't guarantee that it'll be the same footprint. In fact, it won't be the same footprint as what is there now. So those designs need to kind of evolve together with some coordination. So I think it was a great meeting, and I think hopefully then, soon in the near future, there'll be some meetings where Rotary is at the table too, to do some coordination about, how to move forward, knowing that we're looking to replace the playground but still install a shade structure. So it was great. It's exciting.
Yeah, we're still sinking our teeth into all the options
Absolutely.
and trying, there's a lot of stuff out there. And I have to say, it is a night and day from the playground structure
change.
that we played on as kids, and I would say it's even, different than most of the playground equipment that you see installed in parks around the county right now. I've got 4 kids, 10 and under, so I've spent a lot of time running around on a lot of different playgrounds. And you're right, the elements that they have are very interesting in terms of, I think they're very compelling for the kids. I think they give them a lot of different options for play. It's, it's And one of the things that we talked about, well, let me back up a little bit. As we start to go a little farther along with this, we talked about, I think it'd really be good to either do, we need to do some community outreach. I think it'd be good if we could, one, I mean, the obvious place to put it is we need to put some signage out at the playground areas, let people know that, and schedule a meeting and let people know that there's an opportunity for them to come and weigh in on these things. And so we could coordinate something and publicize it like that. And then I would even say it would be good to take a step further and maybe even try to identify, some kids.
Well, I think we talked about.
Who we can get to the table so
Yeah,
that,
we threw out like maybe having a design shred or something.
Right,
With kids.
right.
Like they did with the skate park,
Yeah,
which was excellent and
Right.
really engaged people in the process.
But there's a lot of very exciting elements. It's getting late, I won't get into it right now, and
Yeah.
obviously it'll be coming back to the commission. But, we were very excited about the new generation merry-go-rounds. Because you just don't see merry-go-rounds
Right.
around anymore. So, but again, that's a bunch of adults talking.
Yep.
And I think it'd be great to hear from the kids and the parents as to what they'd like to see out there. But, it's really changing. The new equipment, a lot of it is, it's cable-based as opposed to just these, platforms and, and it's not so,
Well, it's very
static.
it's creative play too.
Yeah.
The way the kids approach it is not that there's one path.
Right.
Each kid approaches it the way they want to, and physically, I think the fitness levels are increased by a lot more core and climbing and interacting with it. And there's not just one path. I think it's really exciting stuff. It was really it was a nice presentation. It's a lot to look forward to, and I think there are a lot more options for changing the aesthetic. With color and maybe blending into the environment that it's in more. I think there's a lot more. I mean, playground has changed in the last 20 years a lot. Even in the last 15, they've come up with a lot of really new stuff that wasn't around when any of the play equipment in this valley has gone in. I think the schools may have a couple of pieces that are in the last 10 years. I think like Miners Oaks has. It would be fun at some point. We also talked about doing a little field trip because there's to see some of these newer installations. But so that was longer than it needed to be, but it was very exciting. It was nice, and we've gotten started. And I think there's clearly we need some more meetings and some maybe to pull in a couple like Rotary sooner than later just to make sure everyone's on the same page. But
Sure.
Yeah, very exciting.
So there'll be more coming on that, so. But yeah, it is. It's exciting and kind of fun to look at too. So, I mean, we all remember the monkey bars and that kind of structure. Well, now they do it with these high-tech cables.
Right. Or
So you've got that.
all kinds of spinning elements.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Any questions?
Nope, I don't have
A lot
any
of stuff
questions.
going on, so.
Okay, the only thing I want to make sure is we get the BMX bike on the next agenda.
Sure. You got it?
And then the ongoing was going to be the naming policy.
Right.
And the Rec and Parks
Duties.
duties.
Yep.
Thank you.
Can I add that you put the BMX at the top, since a
Sure.
lot of kids come,
You bet.
That's a good idea.
and then they, top of the agenda.
And then we need to appoint the ad hoc committee on the open
Oh,
house.
yes, that's it. I knew there was something else I'd written somewhere.
I'm sorry, Randy, you just gave that to me. It was the bike park, the power and duties, and then what was the other thing? I just
Naming
had it and I
policy?
lost it.
Naming
Thank you.
pros-
I just couldn't pull it up. It's getting late.
Policy and procedures for the
Thank you.
naming. And would you like this green card
And
back?
I'll say, it was a great presentation by Gary Ryan.
That was
and if-
so good to know.
We probably talked many moons ago about this, but if you want, as a commission, to have me bring in a instructor from time to time, or give a
like
quick
that.
5-10 minute presentation for
that.
each
Yeah.
instructor, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to
And
come in
even
and speak
staff,
to you.
we talked about that too, because now we're on television, so you could introduce the staff.
We
Yeah,
could start
it's
each
just-
minute with 5 minutes of calisthenics and stretching.
If we need to. It's recreation, but I wouldn't mind, and if you, again, if you want,
It's a great idea.
I can invite any instructor to come and say what they do and how they do it, similar to what Gary just did.
So Gary came here specifically asking for some advice on marketing.
He wants
Had-
help.
Had he approached you already on it?
Yeah, of course, we talk daily about it, and we've communicated with the Ojai Valley News that we have this program and when it is, and we've invited them to come and do a photo op and a quick write-up about the program. I talked to Gary about, let's get more photos of your activity. I mean, it did, in its defense, or both of our defense, it just started mid-January.
Oh, okay.
So it's a
Brand
month
new.
in.
Right.
It's brand new, but.
Still an infant.
Yeah. So we know there's some marketing still to be done, but I told him, hey, take more photos, we'll put it on our Facebook page. But he intentionally said, hey, you have eyes and ears too in the community, and he wanted to get the commission involved in helping him to promote it too. But no, certainly on our end, we're gonna do everything we can to advertise it.
I have one other, and it's entirely up to the commission, but that we bring one program's rules and regulations so that we become familiar with what goes on out there. We were talking about the 8-man, or you were talking about the 5-man or 8-man versus 10-man basketball program and different things, but I myself need to know, we're approached and people ask us out there at those deals, well, how come it's not this? I think it would be a really good idea to have some sort of knowledge on our part about what the program is.
So if I could follow up on that, I think the most productive way to do that would be, let staff know what that program is, and then maybe if we could start by working on a committee level, just because, there's going to be a lot of questions and details, and I think to try to do that initially at a commission meeting might be difficult.
However we want to do that, but I'm just curious to see all the programs that we have, and I'd like to be able to, if somebody was to approach me, we're working on this, or this is the
Sure.
rule, and that's the way it is.
We could create a standing committee too and just start working through them if that's how the commission
Well,
would like to go.
another option is that we had assigned commissioners to specific areas, and maybe that's one of their responsibilities is,
I think it's,
if
yeah.
someone has sports fields.
It that way too, yeah.
Is that commissioner go get involved and find out what the policies are, and what the draft policies are, and what the field policies are, and what the, I think that's another way too.
It's fine.
Should we put that on the
Yeah, we-
agenda? to
Yeah,
figure
do
it
we
out?
want to do that?
Need
Do
to
we?
revisit those assigned areas, I guess.
Right,
but
so maybe we
all
want to
have
do that,
one.
Steve.
I'll-
It's kind of fallen.
Yeah, I think we really
Let's
probably
reassign areas.
reassign.
Well, and discuss, once you're assigned an area, what your goal is
Right,
there. Because
what the-
before, I think you were assigned an area so you could experience it.
Right.
Well, and then we come back and
Understand.
say how, like, for instance, I'll just be out there now, and everybody is knowing now that I'm part of this commission. And so they'll come up and I'm like, I think I sent Sophocles an email the other day because this guy's talking to me, and I'm like an idiot there, not knowing what to tell him, or, when's this gonna happen, or how come this is happening, and it was the soccer information. I'm
Right.
just like, well, it just doesn't look good.
Ask
Let me
next
get back
week.
Okay, are we all
Good.
set?
Yep.
Thank you.
Real quick, just a couple things. The new signs have been ordered. I don't know, I don't have a date on when those were. I think Greg told me, and I just am not able to recall right now, but it's in works. The other thing that I just wanted to mention was upcoming items for the city council agenda, since we always go through that. I'm trying to see here what, well, the February 11th meeting, they are coming back with an ADA transition plan for sidewalks and parking lots, so maybe we can talk about noticing on that. I'm looking down here for things that might interest the Parks Commission, and I'm not seeing much. So the landscape water efficient ordinance is scheduled to come to the city council on March 11th for discussion. And after that, we don't have too much firmed up on the agenda, so I don't have much that I can report on out past that date.
So what's the discussion on the March 11th meeting regarding the landscape water ordinance? Do we know?
Yeah, I think it has to do with the restrictions.
Are they doing a presentation? Is Kathy and
Joe and Kathleen are doing that, so I'd have to find out more information.
It's incorporating the state laws on landscaping that have come down, and I believe they're trying to coordinate with Complete Streets and the landscaping. We've been working on it for quite a while. I believe
Yeah.
it's on the city website.
Okay.
Also wanted to mention that we're finalizing, hopefully, an agreement with the county. I believe I mentioned this at the January 23rd meeting, but they've pledged to provide $3,500 this fiscal year for a replacement scholarship fund. As you know, we had the REV funds in the past through the CDBG, and we lost those in 2013. So Supervisor Bennett's office should be given credit for helping push this through. And like I said, I've been in discussions with the county staff, and we're hopefully going to be finalizing an agreement very soon on that. And so that'll give us $3,500 for scholarships to provide to non-city residents that use city recreation programs this fiscal year. And we think that we could use all of that money. And again, the old program, they got 100% scholarship. With the new program, you have to pay in half.
It's matching.
So better than nothing.
Great.
That's all I got.
Okay, so you got, Steve? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll see you next month.
If not sooner. It's a lot.